Welcome to the fantasy audiobook. Kaido was defeated. I went to West Blue to resurrect Big Brother Homelander. Chapter 81. New World. Marine G1 Headquarters. At this time, inside a conference room on the highest level of the fortress, Marines Marshal Sakazuki, 3 Admiral Fujitora, Green Bull, Kizaru, as well as Staff Crane, Dark Horse, Momoshiki and others all gathered together. Just now, they received orders from the 5 elders themselves to be ready for battle and to be on call at all times. Boom. This made Marine executives, who had always been frustrated and helpless, suddenly cheered up. I can't bear it anymore, no need to bear it anymore. After Garp and Sengoku died, they wanted to fight for a long time, but they were kept under pressure by the world government. Now they can finally prepare for battle justifiably. It's so scary. Kizaru's expression was not very good, and he made an exaggerated voice, saying, "It seems that the ancestor of the sea, Lule, after killing the Elephant Lord and the Red, Chi-Chi-san, Hair Shanks, the world government believes that the time is ripe. I really didn't think that even the elephant owner who had lived for thousands of years died." Fujitora picked up the teacup and took a sip of hot tea, then said in a deep voice, "Now Wano-kuni has fallen into the hands of the beast's pirates again. Lule seems to have become the ninja god of Wano-kuni again. The red-haired Shanks is also dead." The green cow's expression was a little ugly, and he said incredulously, "It was still crushed to death by Lule, the ancestor of the sea." At first, when he was in Wano-kuni, because of the red-haired Shanks' conqueror's haki, as a person with the ability of the forest fruit, he was naturally very wise to give the red-haired a face. It's good now. Such a mighty sea emperor died in Wano-kuni. The conqueror's haki owned by the ancestors is stronger than the red hair from the papers. This makes the green cow a little unbelievable. The world government should be real. The dark horse took a deep breath and said, "Once the war begins, it will be a decisive battle. This time I'm going to be involved." A ray of undisguised anger flashed across the wise eyes of Staff Officer Crane, and said, "I want to avenge Garp and Sengoku." Certainly, Staff Officer Crane didn't say a word. That is to avenge the red-haired Shanks. She is not a fool or a fool. After a little guess, you know that the red-haired go to Wano-kuni is 80% because of the Straw Hat Pirates. Maybe he was determined to die, or maybe he didn't expect Lule to be so strong, and he didn't give him any face at all. Finally, the Kazuki family did not save successfully, and they gave it in vain. It is good. Sakazuki, who had not spoken for a long time, took a deep breath. There was a hint of determination in his eyes, and he said with a resolute expression, "Since the world government has issued an order, we Marine are ready, no matter what. This sinful ancestor of the sea Lule must be removed. The sea does not allow such an awesome existence." New World. The Cross Guild of one of the 4 Emperor's regiments. Buggy, one of the 4 emperors, and Mihawk, Crocodile all gathered together. Certainly, the fake 4 emperors are carefully pouring water with tea. Mihawk, the true masters of the Cross Guild, and Lord Crocodile were looking at the newspapers in their hands with solemn expressions. After seeing the 4 emperors' Shanks being crushed and killed, the originally ordinary Eagle Eye suddenly erupted with a monstrous sword. Perhaps because the power was too strong, the roof and the white clouds in the sky were chopped in half. Seeing the emotions have some runaway eagle-eyed Mihawk. The 4 emperors' Buggy, who was pouring water, changed his expression slightly. He didn't even dare to breathe, and he was afraid that the fire at the city gate would affect Chiyu. "Redhead, why are you going to Wano-kuni? When the Kazuki clan is destroyed, it will be destroyed." Hawkeye Mihawk threw the newspaper in his hand and muttered to himself with a little sadness, "You died like this, what should I do?" As the world's largest swordsman recognized by the sea, Hawkeye has very few close friends, and it happens that the red-haired Shanks is one. Now that his best friend has died, it is false to say that it is not uncomfortable. Crocodile exhaled a puff of white smoke and sighed. Another 4 emperors died. I don't know who will come up. The situation is a little more complicated. After hearing this, Mihawk suppressed the anger in his heart and said solemnly, "In the face of the great ancestor of the sea, Lule, we must also be prepared." Indeed. Crocodile nodded and looked at Buggy. Buggy patted his chest and said in a firm tone, "I'll take care of it." However, Buggy is very strong on the surface, but he has long wanted to run away. it is really too dangerous to be a 4 emperors. How long has it been? Blackbeard and red-haired Shanks died. Thinking of the red-haired Shanks, Buggy's heart is still a little sad. That guy actually died like this. That's it for now. The next moment, Hawkeye Mohawk shook his head helplessly, and didn't want to say anything more. The sea is really getting harder and harder to mix. Crocodile took a few sips of his cigar and fell silent too. New World, a large commercial island, inside a hotel meeting room in the central area. The pirates of Red Hair Pirates all gathered together, looking extremely sad and uncomfortable, and even clenched their fists, and their bodies began to tremble with anger. But no one spoke. Invisibly makes the atmosphere extremely solemn and chilling. Died. Daddy Shanks is dead. Why go to Wano Kuni? You know it's a death sentence. The Kazuki family also has brain problems. They knew that the ancestors of the Great Ocean were going to return to Wano Kuni. Why didn't they evacuate earlier? Still waiting there to die. Accompanied by 3.6 sounds of pain. I saw a young girl with red hair on the right and light pink hair on the left, wearing headphones and a jacket with feathers, looking at a newspaper in her hand, with wisps of tears streaming from her eyes. She never thought, on the eve of his upcoming concert and revealing the true face of Mount Lu for the first time. Her adoptive father, the red-haired Shanks, died. This made her unacceptable, and she couldn't accept it at all. Ancestors of the sea, Lule, I remember you. I don't know how long it took. Yuta took a deep breath, a look of resoluteness flashed across his eyes, and said, Uncle Beckman, I want to succeed the captain of the Red Hair Pirates and become the new emperor of the sea. Uncle Beckman, I'm going to be the captain of the Red Hair Pirates and become the new emperor of the sea. After saying this, Yuta's pretty face is full of resolute color. Now that things have developed, she has no choice. In the past, she just wanted to sing well and let others into the virtual space, Yuta world. Mushroom, plans to seal the world of Yuta forever through sleepless death. Now the plan can't keep up with the changes. Daddy Shanks is dead. That daughter inherited the Red Hair Pirates from her father and became the new 4 emperors, which is also a matter of course. What's more, she wants the ancestor of the sea, Lule, to know that Father Shanks is dead, but the Red Hair Pirates are still there, and he will never admit defeat and surrender easily. What, young Master Yuta, you won't come for real, will you? Do you really want to be the captain of our Red Hair Pirates? The next moment, accompanied by surprises and stunned voices, the pirates of Red Hair Pirates, such as Usopp, Reiki Lu, Digo, Bendik Snake, etc., all showed extremely surprised expressions. In their opinion, the young Master Yuta has his own pursuit and ideals, but now he wants to become the captain of the Red Hair Pirates. Doesn't that mean he has to inherit the legacy of the red-haired boss? This is simply a big surprise. Actually, after learning that the red-haired boss was dead, the pirates of Red Hair Pirates are also thinking about who can become the new captain and lead Red Hair Pirates to move forward. After all, Deputy Captain Beckman has made it clear that he does not want to be the new captain. Well now, the young master, Yuta took the initiative to stand up. That is undoubtedly the best. Everyone is convinced, and there will be no disputes, so that Red Hair Pirates can achieve a smooth transition. Do not. It also depends on the attitude of Deputy Captain Beckman. Yuta, have you really made up your mind? At this time, Beckman held a burning cigarette, thought for a moment, and then said very solemnly, once you become the captain of Red Hair Pirates, you will have new responsibilities and obligations, and the burden on your shoulders may be heavy. You can't breathe. Uncle Beckman, I've made up my mind. Yuta nodded resolutely, and said without fear, there is pressure to be motivated. Before, I was carefree under the wings of Father Shanks, and now I want to challenge my weakness. It is good. Hearing this sentence, Beckman nodded with great satisfaction, and said confidently, Yuta, starting from today, you are the captain of our Red Hair Pirates, the new emperor of the sea. Agree, Captain Yuta, we will assist you well. Red-haired boss, have you seen it? Yuta will inherit your legacy and lead us to move forward. With Beckman nodding in agreement, the pirates of Red Hair Pirates, such as Usopp, Reiki Lu, Dejay, Bendik Snake, etc., all made a sound of excitement and excitement. There is nothing to say. Although the red-haired boss is dead, but, forever living in their hearts, they will help Captain Yuta well. As for whether Yuta will become the new Sea Emperor, they are not worried at all. On the one hand, Yuta's strength is actually not weak, and on the other hand, the heritage of red hair pirates is still there. As long as they spread the news that Yuta became the captain, Marine and the world government will definitely react. By the way, no news from Luffy yet. Now that he has decided to become the captain of red hair pirates, Yuta quickly entered the state and said solemnly, "Now the ancestor of the sea, Lule is in the sky, we can't just think about revenge, but first contact Luffy and then discuss what to do next." No news. Beckman took a cigarette and said, "Dangian Island, the country of the future, is the territory of Vegapunk, and the phone bug signal seems to be completely blocked." "Is that so?" Yuta frowned and said, "Then let's stabilize for a while and wait for Luffy to come out from Egg Tip Island." Beckman exhaled a breath of white smoke and said, "It's time to stabilize, the situation in the sea is becoming more and more complicated and changeable, and no one can see how the future will go. No matter what, I will try my best." Yuta's eyes firmly clenched his fists, secretly giving himself a boost. The next day, while the sea was still in turmoil, Red Hair Pirates simply and neatly issued a statement. The red-haired adopted daughter, the world's #1 songstress, Yuta became the captain of Red Hair Pirates. As soon as the news came out, the whole sea shook violently. Among them, Marine directly announced that Yuta had become the new 4 emperors after investigating the news and issued the latest bounty order for Yuta, with a bounty of 3.8 billion berry. At the same time, the waters near the future kingdom of Dangian Island, a world government's top warship is moving fast. At this time, in the cabins on the deck, CPOs Luigi, Kaku, and Stussy are sitting here. "I really didn't expect that we would receive an order to assassinate Vegapunk." Kaku rubbed his long nose and sighed with emotion. "This Vegapunk is a rare super genius in the world, because he was very busy, he created a total of 6 Cat Squad clones. It is said that they represent desire, violence, knowledge, thinking, evil, and righteousness. When it comes to this," Kaku's tone was obviously a bit of amazement and admiration. "Genius is really too troublesome, and he has made so many clones." Lucci shook his head and said indifferently, "Anyway, let's first send the Seraph in the form of Big Bear to Egg Point Island, the country of the future, and kill those clones of Vegapunk. Don't destroy the valuable things in the research institute when killing people." Hearing this sentence, Kaku subconsciously reminded, those things are still useful to the world government. Lucci shrugged and said to himself, "I really don't know what the world government is thinking, maybe it has something to do with what happened in the kingdom of Luluja not long ago." The voice did not fall. Stussy hurriedly interrupted Lucci's words and said, "This matter is related to the highest boss of the world government, Lord Yimu, so that's it." "That's right," Kaku added solemnly, "we'd better not get involved in this matter." "Fine." Lucci nodded reluctantly, and wisely stopped talking. At this stage, the situation in the sea is a bit complicated. Especially with the resurrection of the ancestors of the sea, Lule, more and more rampant, the world government has been devastated, they still better be cautious. I just don't know that after the Straw Hat Pirates knew what happened in the sea during this time. Will it run wild? Egg Tip Island, the country of the future. Central region, a town full of sci-fi futuristic style. If someone is here, they will find that there are mechanical equipment and machine creatures that the entire sea does not have. In the middle, there is a huge steel flying dragon facing off against another huge robot. Everything is full of future technology. And in the central hub of the town, in a very modern laboratory, I saw a Vegapunk girl avatar number 01 representing, positive, looking at the newspapers in her hand, showing a look of interest. This great ancestor, Lule, seems to be more oppressive and violent than before after his resurrection. He also exposed the hidden boss of the world government, Lord Yim, through the news of the world, and unscrupulously killed the T-Dolphin, Sengoku, Blackbeard, Garp. After returning to Wano-kuni, he killed Kazuki Sukiyaki, Momosuke, and the red-haired Shanks who lived for thousands of years and one of the 4 emperors. A series of actions makes even the well-informed her a little dazzled. I have seen pervert, she has never seen such a super pervert who is so unscrupulous and can do whatever she wants. Compared with more than 40 years ago, there is a world of difference. More importantly, how did Lule, the ancestor of the sea, know about the existence of Yimu? Forced Yimu to take the initiative to kill him a country. Can't figure it out. There are really some things I can't figure out. So that in the face of Lule, the ancestor of the sea who is full of mystery, her heart is full of curiosity and interest. It's a pity, if the genes of Elephant Lord, red-haired Shanks, Blackbeard, and Garp can be extracted and made into Seraph, how strong would that be? In the next second, he seemed to think of something, representing a positive Vegapunk. A look of regret flashed across his cheeks. The ancestors of the sea, Lule is really too cruel. However, when she thought that she took the initiative to work with Lule, the ancestor of the sea, more than 40 years ago, she was rejected neatly, which means that the positive Vegapunk expression suddenly became a little gloomy. Of course, it was precisely because Lule rejected her that she was caught by the world government and forced to serve the world government. Now that the ultimate weapon, Seraph, has been researched, plus some unknown secrets of ensues single-handedly destroying a country, the world government should take action. You have been guarding against me, why am I not guarding against you? The eyes of Vegapunk, who represented the righteousness, showed some playfulness, and he muttered to himself, the research on the ontology is at a critical moment, and we have to be a little more stable. If I can get the genetic data of the ancestors of the sea or the genetic data of Yimu, I am afraid that I will not be able to create the strongest blazing angel in history. Thinking of this, representing positive Vegapunk's eyes, there was a faint flash of madness that only scientists have. The current sea, stirred up by Lule, the ancestor of the sea, has become turbulent, and the world government can no longer control everything, which makes the future of the sea have countless possibilities. She, Vegapunk, may also have a great opportunity. By the way, and the Straw Hat Luffy. Representing the positive Vegapunk's mouth, there is a ray of arc. In fact, after learning that Straw Hat Luffy exploded rubber fruit into Renren fruit, Eudemons, and Nika, she wanted to put a bet on the Straw Hat Pirates. After all, Joey Boy is not a fuel-efficient person. Lights, laid out for so many years. In addition, the Straw Hat Pirates have reached the inland sea of Egg Tip Island in the future kingdom. Now, she is more looking forward to seeing the Straw Hat Luffy run wild. After all, after entering the inland sea of Egg Tip Island, the news and newspapers outside can't get in, and the phone bug signal is blocked, so Straw Hat Luffy must not know that so many things have happened in the sea. Nine Snake Island has stood in line with the ancestors of the sea, and the female Emperor Hancock is even on the bed of the ancestors of the sea. No, it is a boat. Marine hero, Garp the Fist is dead, the Fishmen Island is also surrendered to the ancestors of the sea, Shirahoshi is also in the bag of the ancestors of the sea, Wano Kuni's day has changed, the Kazuki families Sukiyaki and Momonosuke are dead, plus the red-haired Shanks were also killed. A series of things, more or less related to the Straw Hat pirate ship. Once he knew these things, Straw Hat Luffy would definitely go wild. It's getting more and more interesting. Representing the positive Vegapunk stretched and pressed a button. Laugh. The next moment, a surveillance screen appeared right in front of you. As for the content of the screen, it is the scene where the number 02 Vegapunk clone codenamed Evil, Lilith confronts the Straw Hat Pirates. The other side, in the inland sea of Egg Tip Island in the future kingdom. Lilith looked at the pirates in front of her speechlessly. She was looking for some valuable treasures on the seabed near here to ease the embarrassment of tight research funding, but she encountered a group of pirates who suddenly broke in. High-pissed. Ah, if you want to save us well. Hearing that the guy in front of him was looking for valuable treasure in the sea, Nami's eyes widened and he couldn't help but exclaimed, how could you do such a thing in such a cold sea? HMPH. The sea area here is so ordinary that pirate ships can't get in at all, who knows how you all got here? Lilith snorted coldly and emphasized, I didn't plan to save you. Laugh. After saying this, as soon as Lilith's mind moved, she began to summon helpers and plan to rob. Whoa, 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 whoa. The next moment, with the sound of water coming out, under the unbelievable gazes of the Straw Hat Pirates and the others, dozens of giant sea beasts whose bodies had been mechanically remodeled surfaced, and without exception, they all had punk on their bodies. Mark is staring at the pirates of the Straw Hat Pirates. What? See this scene. Frankie was intoxicated as if seeing the same kind. Sanji was not affected, looking at Lilith still showing the iconic expression of seeing beautiful women. As for Zoro, Usopp, Robin, Luffy, Nami, and others, they frowned and had some bad premonitions in their hearts. Almost. Lilith glanced at the mechanical sea beast she summoned, and nodded with great satisfaction. It should be more than enough to deal with these guys in front of her, right? But, just when she wanted to order, suddenly, there was an abusive voice coming from the earphones. Quote. Lilith, anyway, you are a scientist, have you been reduced to robbery? If you don't want to die, don't do it. On the other end of the earphone, the representative Vegapunk said slowly, you are now facing the Straw Hat Pirates who have just become the Four Emperors Pirates, whether it is the leading Straw Hat Luffy or the sword-wielding Zoro, and the Devil's Son, Nico Robin, can kill you from a distance. What? Lilith, who was about to start, froze. It was at this time that she was surprised to find that, from the beginning to the end, except for the transforming person and the guy with the nympho expression, the rest of the people seemed to be very calm, as if they were not afraid of these mechanical sea beasts that she had summoned. These mechanical sea beasts are very strong, but we are not afraid. At this time, Zoro squinted his eyes, didn't bother to talk nonsense, and threatened, now give you a choice, bring us to the island, I won't kill you, otherwise. Quote. Lilith stomped her feet fiercely, but she wisely didn't do anything. Bring them here, I'll give them a great gift for the Straw Hat Pirates. On the other end of the phone bug, the representative Vegapunk glanced at the Jiao 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 newspaper in his hand, and said a little expectantly. Let's go. After hearing this, Lilith gave Zoro a vicious look, then turned her head and walked towards the central area of Egg Tip Island. We'll follow. Luffy waved his fist and said carelessly, I really hope there is food on the island to feast on, and then we will find a way to get out of here and go back to Wano Kuni. Alas, power. Seeing this, Nico Robin opened his mouth and wanted to say something, but sighed secretly. Since entering this sea area, they have completely lost contact with the outside world, and now they don't know what happened to the outside world. Originally, they wanted to return to Wano Kuni earlier, but now it seems that they can only wait until they get out of this island. Not right, and Zoro's face has always been very heavy. I don't know what happened. He always felt inside him that something big was about to happen. Therefore, he didn't dare to relax his vigilance at all, his eyes locked on Lilith, to ensure that if something went wrong, he could kill her instantly. However, what followed was very unexpected to Zoro. The Vegapunk clone named Lilith didn't do any tricks or intrigue, and led them into a town full of sci-fi futuristic style, and also met Bonnie and others who climbed in from the sewers. And when the group entered the town, looking at the equipment and machine creatures they had never seen before, the pirates of the Straw Hat Pirates were as if they had never seen anything in the world, showing a stunned expression. Okay, what a big iron dragon. Sudden, a scream rang out. Luffy seemed to see something that interested him, and when he was excited, he stretched his arms and rushed towards the mighty Haki dragon. Wait a minute, Luffy. Seeing that Luffy was about to start something, Nami hurriedly opened his mouth to stop it, but found that it was too late. The steel giant also discovered the uninvited guests of the Straw Hat Pirates, and without hesitation, he opened his mouth to bite Luffy. However, a miraculous scene appeared. Luffy went straight through the steel dragon's head and hit a wall. A ghost, very real phantom. No, are these all false? Seeing this miraculous scene, Sanji, Zoro, Usopp and others could not help but exclaimed. Wow, so much food. After hitting the wall, Luffy rubbed his head, and before he thought about it, he saw a large pot of delicious-looking food. Wow, a lot of food. Seeing this, Bonnie and Chopper jumped up without hesitation. Clang, clang, 3 consecutive sounds of hitting the ground sounded. Luffy, Bonnie, and Chopper's heads all hit the ground hard. What the hell is going on here? Luffy rubbed his head with a bewildered face, and said incredulously, why are all of them fake? It should be some virtual projection images. Robin passed through the body of a giant robot and said, this town is really weird, we have to be careful. Quote. What? Luffy clenched his fist and shouted angrily, it's all fake, doesn't it mean that you don't even have food? Luffy, what do you think this is? However, at this time, Chopper saw a very strange machine and said, there are so many pictures of food on it, do we have to choose what we want to eat? What? Upon hearing this, Luffy's anger disappeared in an instant, and he hurried to the machine. Result, the saliva almost came out when I saw it. Isn't it wrong? At this time, Jinbei took a look around before saying a little curiously, the temperature here seems to be different from the nearby sea. Of course not. The voice did not fall. A voice rang out. I saw a girl-like robot appearing not far away, saying, "This used to be a frozen island, and the temperature here was changed by Vegapunk. Stop pretending to be a ghost, it must be another projection." Swish. A cracking sound rang out. Luffy, who didn't eat anything, punched the girl-like robot with a punch. Boom. Immediately after, a figure flew out backwards. Luffy slammed on the machine just now, as if he had touched some button. The huge machine was still running, and soon a BJDG portion of fried chicken, hamburgers, fries, and Coke appeared, a luxurious large set of chicken chops. The sudden appearance of the food made both Bonnie and Chopper stunned and rubbed their eyes, as if there were some doubts about whether it was real or not. Delicious, so delicious. They were still hesitating, but Luffy didn't care about the 3, 7 or 21, and began to take a big mouthful of food. Real. Wow. Bonnie and Chopper no longer hesitated, and soon joined the ranks of the cooks, and began to frantically order food on the machine. Under such circumstances, the 3 of them ate there like no one else. What? Watching the 3 of Luffy eat and drink there. Zoro, Jinbei, Robin, Usopp, Nami and others couldn't help frowning. Things seemed to be getting weirder and weirder. What was this female robot that suddenly appeared? I'm Vegapunk for violence. A ray of electricity flashed on the mechanical arm of the girl robot, and with one punch, the virtual mechanical dragon just now flew away, and said with a smile, "If you don't eat something, you may not eat in the next few days. Desire." Impossible, no one can stop me from cooking. Luffy said something disapprovingly, and had a toast with Bonnie, not taking this sentence to heart at all. What do you mean? What is this Vegapunk trying to do? As for Zoro, Jinbei, Robin, Usopp, Nami, and others, they were slightly stunned. For some reason, their inner unease became more and more obvious and urgent. Bro, stop playing, tell them. Just when the girl robot wanted to say something, Vegapunk's voice came from the headphones. This time, the Straw Hat Pirates will definitely enter a state of mad dogs. Be careful, if you can't, just let them go. If you want to trap the 4 Emperors level pirate group in a rampant state, unless you have all the cards, it is impossible. Therefore, the representative Vegapunk has already thought about it, and he will not be tough with the Straw Hat Pirates, nor does he plan to invest in the Straw Hat Pirates, let alone become the 10th member of the Straw Hat Pirates. Quote. The girl robot curled its lips, and said in a somewhat irritable silence, "Don't worry, I have my senses." The next moment, the girl robot unhurriedly took out a stack of newspapers and said in a low voice, "These are some newspapers that have been published in the ocean recently, and they should be what you need." What? Newspaper? Quote. Without any hesitation, Robin, who had long wanted to know the direction of the sea, suppressed his excitement, took the first step forward, took the newspaper, and quickly glanced at it. Quiet. A dead silence. After scanning the newspaper, even Robin, who had experienced all kinds of things, was stunned, and his mind was buzzing, and it was completely blank. Robin, what's wrong with you? Zoro was a little stunned. Didn't he just read a newspaper? Why was he still sluggish? He reached out and took the newspaper in Robin's hand, and read it disapprovingly. As expected, Zoro also fell into a sluggish state. What? Originally, I wanted to wait for Robin and Zoro to watch it, so I would like to tell everyone about it, but now both of them are stunned. Sanji shook his head, picked up a cigarette, and tugged at the newspaper. He couldn't understand this green algae head. Like Robin, he could be frightened by reading a newspaper. However, the cigarettes have burned out. Sanji didn't even notice, just stared blankly at the newspaper. Therefore, in this situation, Jinbei, Frankie, Usopp, and Brook all fell into a state of sluggishness. In stark contrast, Luffy, Pawnee, and Chopper were gulps down their gourmet food, happily grabbing drinks and toasting. Yeah, a few minutes later, Bonnie took a chicken leg and burped happily, ready to call Sanji and the others to enjoy the food, only to be surprised to find that Zoro and the others stood there motionless as if they had lost their souls. What's wrong? Bonnie showed a puzzled expression, as if he realized something, and hurriedly said, "Luffy has a big problem, they all seem to have a problem." What? After hearing this, Luffy ate a big pig's head in 3 mouthfuls, and said disapprovingly, "I'm here, what can I do?" The voice did not fall. Bang, 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 with the sound of falling to the ground. The bodies of Robin, Zoro, Nami, Usopp, Jinbei and others slumped on the ground. Quote. Looks like something's wrong. Zoro, Robin, Sanji, what's wrong with you? Perceiving this scene, Luffy suddenly felt that something was wrong. His arm holding the drink froze. He hurriedly stood up and made a very urgent voice, but his eyes fell on the girl robot. This feeling a little different from Luffy just now. Even if it was a robot, the girl robot felt a lot of pressure, and felt as if she was facing a king who was about to go berserk. None of my business, the girl robot hurriedly explained. They became like this when they read the newspaper. Newspaper, swish, a cracking sound rang out. Luffy walked over to Nami's dull-eyed side, picked up the newspaper that had fallen to the ground, and looked at it with great confusion. He can't figure it out. Reading a newspaper can make you look stupid. Is there a mistake? However, the information in the first newspaper made Straw Hat Luffy stunned, as if he couldn't believe it, and rubbed his eyes. Blackbeard, one of the 4 emperors, died in the hands of the ancestors of the sea, and 9 Snake Island surrendered to the sea. The ancestor, the Empress Hancock, also boarded the pirate ship of Lule, the ancestor of the sea. Stunned, unconsciously, the face of the Empress appeared in Luffy's mind. Didn't she say she likes me? Feeling the pain in his heart, Luffy changed the second newspaper again. His face changed suddenly, and a violent pressure swept out from his body without concealment. Immediately, Luffy's hair and clothes turned white, and his hair turned white. Like a flame, the steam streamer wraps around the neck and underarms like a 4th gear. No doubt, under the gaff, the 4 emperors Luffy directly entered the 5th level awakening state. Anger, extremely angry. Luffy, who has entered the 5th stage of awakening, is like losing his mind. The aura of the whole body was extremely unstable, and a burst of aura that shot up to the sky directly penetrated a layer of electronic protective shield above Eggtip Island, revealing the blue sky. The next moment, this monstrous momentum shrouded the entire Eggtip Island, shaking all directions. King to the sea, heaven and earth to surrender. This is the conqueror's haki that belongs to King Luffy. Perhaps the power is too strong, and even cracks appeared on the ground of Eggtip Island. Countless steel sea beasts that have been transformed have not reacted, and their heads fell into a humming sound, and passed out. Only a very few steel sea beasts whose heads have been mechanically transformed have escaped the catastrophe. But, this is so, facing Wong Luffy's monstrous conqueror's haki, this very few steel sea beasts whose heads have been mechanically transformed still shivered. Is this Straw Hat Luffy's conqueror's haki? So strong. No wonder the power to defeat Kaido of the beasts is terrifying. I feel that all the transformed mechanical sea beasts are not Luffy's opponents. The power of the 4 emperors is so terrifying. Perceiving this rage to Ultimate's conqueror's haki, Vegapunk's violent avatar, evil avatar, and the positive avatar sitting in the laboratory all showed a sense of awe, and he also had an up-to-date understanding of the strength of the Straw Hat Luffy. Clap, clap. As the Straw Hat Luffy became more and more mad, there began to be cracks visible to the naked eye on Eggtip Island. Even some buildings made of steel began to bend, as if they were about to be overturned at any time. The other side, the warship of the world government that just entered the inland sea of Danjian Island. Lucci, Stussy, Kaku was still thinking about how to sneak into Eggtip Island, but suddenly felt a monstrous momentum sweeping out. Immediately afterwards, they saw that the Eggtip Island, which was shrouded in Conqueror's haki, began to collapse, and there were cracks like spider webs, and countless transformed steel sea beasts fell into a state of fainting. Luffy's breath, the straw hat of one of the 4 emperors Luffy's Conqueror's haki. What is going on? How could Luffy burst out with such a powerful aura? Perceiving this Conqueror's haki, Lucci, Stussy, and Kaku were all stunned. Before they even started to act, they encountered Luffy, one of the 4 emperors, who was frantically erupting Conqueror's haki. Luck is too bad bar. Wait a minute, wasn't Luffy the only one who learned about the recent events at sea? Suddenly, Stussy seemed to realize something and said, only this can explain why after Garp the Fist died, the Fishmen Island changed hands, Momonosuke was killed, the red-haired Shanks was killed, etc. The Straw Hat Pirates didn't make any noise. Most likely, Kaku said solemnly. If this is the case, it means that the Straw Hat Pirates are going to explode wildly. Then what about our mission? Lucci frowned and said in a condensed voice, now that the Four Emperors Luffy has entered a state of rampage, Conqueror's Haki must have been driven to ultimate. If we go to the island, we will definitely be perceived. These years, Lucci's strength has grown rapidly, but he has self-awareness. Facing the more pervert Straw Hat Luffy, he will definitely not be able to fight, not to mention that the current Luffy is obviously angry. Hit the muzzle is no joke. Retreat for now. Stussy hesitated for a moment, then said solemnly, the Straw Hat Pirates have already been shocked, and the 6 clones of Vegapunk must be prepared. Agree, Kaku said with a heavy face. The ancestors of the sea are in full swing now. Once the Straw Hat Pirates burst out, the sea will definitely be turbulent again, and we may have more important tasks. Still waiting for a while. Lucci pondered for a moment, and then said meaningfully, let's not rush to the island first, wait and see the changes, and then report to the world government after confirming that the Straw Hat Pirates have left, and see if we can retreat. Stussy and Kaku thought for a while, and nodded in no particular order. The other side, Luffy really feels like he's going crazy in the crazy outbreak. I will not talk about what happened on Nine Snake Island. Even his grandfather was killed by the ancestors of the sea. When he thinks that Grandpa Garp is no longer here, Luffy's heart will collapse, and he will have no grandfather from now on. Is that his dearest grandfather? Now dead. Wait a minute, it seems that there are still a few newspapers I haven't read. But, ask for flowers. Just at this time, Wong Luffy, who entered the 5th gear, was suspended in midair, and began to look at the newspaper in his hand with murderous intent. Even his grandfather died. There is no news that can move his heart. It's a pity. Luffy underestimated the shock of the information in the next newspaper. When he saw that the 3rd newspaper, the Fishmen Island, changed hands and Shirahoshi was taken into the bag by the ancestors of the sea, Luffy's body trembled. After seeing the information in the 4th newspaper that Wano Kuni had changed the dynasty, Kazuki Sukiyaki and Momosuke had been killed, Luffy just felt a buzzing in his head. Peach was actually killed. Thinking of how Momoko was crying when he left Wano Kuni, Luffy felt that his heart was aching and bleeding was constantly dripping. He didn't expect that so many things had happened during the days of being trapped in Danjian Island. The ancestor of the sea, Lule, was just like a lunatic and pervert. Originally, after learning that the ancestor of the sea, Lule, was resurrected, he had already decided to go back to Wano Kuni, but accidentally entered the waters of Egg Tip Island. So, what Wong Luffy thought was to rush back to Wano Kuni after exploring this sea area. Now, he has not hurried back, everything has already happened. Grandpa was killed, the Fishmen Island changed hands, Wano Kuni also suffered. And one last newspaper. Luffy read the last newspaper with ashes in his heart. When he saw the red-haired Shanks went to Wano Kuni to save the Kazuki family and was mercilessly killed by the ancestors of the sea, the last thread in his heart was broken, and he was completely can't hold back. If the man who gave him a straw hat dies, what's the use of him even if he becomes One Piece? Bang, bang, maybe too angry. Luffy's heart began to beat violently when he entered the 5th gear, like the drum of liberation, beating frantically, causing Luffy's state to begin to transform to the next stage, 6th gear. I don't share the sky with the ancestors of the sea. Poof, accompanied by a voice of grief and indignation. Wong Luffy, who was about to enter the 6th gear, spit out a large mouthful of blood, and fell to the ground from midair, falling into a coma. Luffy, are you all right? What's the matter? Looking at Luffy, who fell heavily on the ground, Bonnie and Chopper, who had been conscious of it, reacted and hurried over. Just now, they were still enjoying the food, but they were frightened by the crazy Luffy. Not only was the food too scared to eat, but he didn't even dare to take a breath. Luffy was afraid that he would lose his mind. It's okay, just passed out in a coma. After examining it, Chopper breathed a sigh of relief and said, I should wake up after a short rest. That's good. Bonnie also patted his chest and said with lingering fears, what happened to make Luffy's emotions out of control so badly? Look at it and you'll know. Chopper took the newspapers scattered on the ground and said, there must be something big happening in the sea. 777. Bonnie nodded and read the paper with Chopper. Do not see, do not know. When I saw it, I was startled 5 times in a row. Like Robin, Zoro, etc., Bonnie and Chopper are also in a sluggish state, and there is only one thought in their minds, that is, the ancestor of the sea, Lule is really not a thing, a pervert and a lunatic. Quiet. A dead silence. For a time, the whole Eggtip Island seems to have returned to its former calm. But, whether it's Vegapunk's positive clone, evil clone, or violent clone, they didn't act rashly or make any noise, so they were afraid of getting angry. Although they are clones of Vegapunk, they still have some independent consciousness. After seeing how terrifying the 4 Emperors Luffy under the Fury was, some of the careful thoughts were consciously put away. After all, it was an easy task to sweep these clones with the strength of the 5th rank Luffy. Unless you come up with some whole cards. But, no need, anyway, they have achieved the purpose of making the Straw Hat Pirates run wild. The other side, after sensing the disappearance of Luffy's breath, Lucci, Stussy, and Kaku all showed their anticipation at the same time. It should not be long before they know whether the Straw Hat Pirates will leave Eggtip Island. Once they leave, they will report to the world government, and the 5 elders will definitely praise them. I do not know how long it has been. Robin was the first to come back to his senses. In addition to shock, there was uncontrollable fear in his eyes. What this ancestor of the sea, Lule did, made her feel the scalp numb for a while, and she felt uneasy to ultimate. Because, judging from the actions of this great ancestor, it seems that he has no scruples. Compared with more than 40 years ago, he is more violent and does whatever he wants. What Robin did not expect is that the world government and Marine have no scruples. Any action, let the ancestors of the sea act recklessly. What should I do now? Glancing at Luffy, who fell into a coma. A confused expression appeared in Robin's eyes. What? Nami was the second to recover, covering his mouth and screaming involuntarily, with a look of horror on his cheeks. Clang, with the sound of a sword being drawn. A monstrous sword intent erupted from Zoro's body, and his expression was extremely ugly and angry. These days, so many things have happened in the sea. When he thinks of what the ancestor of the sea, Lule, has done, his heart is the same as Luffy, and his heart is dripping blood. And don't even think about it. Many people in the sea must be watching the jokes of the Straw Hat Pirates. Impossible. Sanji's body trembled and stood up from the ground, throwing away the cigarette butts in his mouth that had already been burned out. His eyes flickered with suspicion. What the ancestor of the sea did, really scared him. Why is that? Isn't this great ancestor Lule not even a little bit limited? Unscrupulous, do whatever you want. Can the world government tolerate the existence of such a terrible guy? Marine is also a piece of junk, unresponsive from start to finish. Jinbei, Usopp, Frankie, and Brook also gradually recovered their senses. In addition to the shock and anger, they all made a sound of scolding, especially Jinbei. He never thought that King Neptune would actually take refuge in the ancestors of the sea. Even with Shirahoshi, he was also in the bag of the ancestors of the sea. What is this? Where is the invisible Straw Hat Pirates? ... Suddenly, there was a trace of coldness in Zoro's eyes, looked at the girl robot, and said extremely coldly, I want to know that these things are really happening. Really, absolutely true. Sensing this undisguised killing intent, the girl robot nodded hurriedly and said, the current ancestor of the sea, Lule, is in full swing, and even the world government and Marine dare not provoke him. It is good. Zoro closed his eyes, suppressed the throbbing in his heart, and said, give us back our Sunny. Immediately, hearing these words, the girl robot didn't hesitate, communicated with Lilith in a hurry, and asked the Steel Sea Beast, who had not been stunned by Conqueror's Haki, to send the Sunny to the dock. Tell the Straw Hat Pirates that I am destroyed the kingdom of Lulusia in order to kill Sabo. A positive Vegapunk voice came from the earphone. I will die. The girl robot complained to herself, but still gathered up her courage and said, there is one more thing that has to do with your Straw Hat Pirates, and that is the final boss of the world government, Yimu, who killed Sabo with a single move. In the kingdom of Lulusia, Sabo's life and death are unknown now. What? Zoro, Robin, Nami, and others were stunned for a while, and their already bitter hearts became even more helpless. What's the situation? The great ancestors of the sea are awesome. Now the final boss of world government, has also shown his sword. In order to kill Sabo, He actually killed King Lulusia 3.6 in a single move. Come on, let's get out of here. Boom. It seemed that he was awakened by the news. Wong Luffy stood up from the ground without sorrow or joy, and said indifferently, no matter what, some people are unforgivable, even if they die, I will make the ancestors of the sea pay the price. Let's go. Quote. Some things are really unforgivable. At this moment, no one stopped Luffy anymore. Zoro, Robin, Nami Jinbei and others nodded in succession, all stood up, showing resolute expressions. Regardless of the outcome, this time, the Straw Hat Pirates are going all out. Regardless of the outcome, this time, the Straw Hat Pirates are going all out. As for everything on Eggtip Island, everyone in the Straw Hat Pirates no longer has any interest. Even Frankie, who admired the technology of Eggtip Island, restrained his inner impulse and showed a resolute expression. There is nothing to say, the Tao is different and the other is different. The actions of the ancestors of the sea, Lule, have touched the bottom limit of the Straw Hat Pirates. It is unbearable. Hate. Therefore, in this situation, the Straw Hat Pirates left Eggtip Island aggressively without any hesitation. Certainly, after the Straw Hat Pirates left, whether it was several clones of Vegapunk on the island, or Lucci, Stussy, and Kaku of CP0 who were secretly observing, they dialed the phone bug in their hands. Note: because of the outbreak of Wong Luffy, Eggtip Island was severely damaged, and the signal shielding on the island has been lifted. They all knew that the real turmoil of the sea was about to begin. That afternoon, a message quickly detonated the still shaking sea. As for the content of the news, the Four Emperors Luffy is furious and will bring the Straw Hat Pirates to attack Wano Kuni, so that the ancestor of the sea Lule will pay with blood. Boom. As soon as the news came out, the whole sea was shaken. Many people showed disbelief when they were horrified. What's the situation? What exactly does it mean? The Straw Hat Pirates, who had been silent for a while, actually made a sound. It's also going to be directly confronted with the ancestor of the sea, Lule. This is too over the top, isn't it? You must know that today's ancestor of the sea, Lule, after killing Sengoku, Garp, Blackbeard, and red-haired Shanks in a row, his peerless fierceness has already shocked the entire sea, and in the hearts of countless people, he is already an invincible existence. So, there is the threat theory of the ancestors of the sea. The result was good. The Straw Hat Pirates didn't move, they almost laughed everyone to death when they moved. Is this going to Wano Kuni to deliver food? Certainly. Some of them still have some vague expectations in their hearts. After all, starting from East Blue, the Straw Hat Pirates seemed to be favored by the goddess of fate. They overcame all obstacles and were invincible. In the end, they defeated the Invincible Beasts pirates in Wano Kuni and became the Four Emperors Pirates. Now to declare war with the ancestor of the sea, Lule, it may not be without miracles. What if you win? If the Straw Hat Pirates are not going to become a pirate group that surpasses the Four Emperors level, Straw Hat Luffy will even be directly conferred a god. In this situation, the sea, which had been shaking, was once again plunged into undercurrents. New World, the Sea of Big Mom, one of the former Four Emperors. Cake Island. The whole island looks tattered and has lost its original glory. Inside the palace in the central area, Charlotte Perospero, Charlotte Katakuri, Charlotte Cracker, Charlotte Smoothie, Charlotte Owen and others are gathered together in embarrassment. If you look closely, you will also find Katakuri, Cracker. Everyone was still seriously injured and was standing there reluctantly. At this moment, no one spoke. Makes the atmosphere of the scene is extremely heavy and deserted. Suffocated. It's really frustrating. As the BIGMOM pirates of the Four Emperors level pirates, Katakuri and others are really so frustrated and helpless for the first time in history. At the beginning, Charlotte Daifuku, Charlotte Perospero, Charlotte Smoothie and others followed their mother Charlotte Linlin to Wano Kuni, but they were shot down by the Big Sign Jin, causing them to be separated from their mother Charlotte Linlin. When the crowd continued to climb the waterfall in the direction of Wano Kuni, but it was attacked again, and the ship was shot down by Marco, the former captain of the Whitebeard Pirates' first squad. When he was about to compromise and wanted to enter Wano Kuni for the third time, he got the bad news that his mother, Charlotte Linlin, fell into the magma underground. So far, the BIGMOM pirate group was in a slump. A few days ago, Vinsmoke, Reiju and IG also dared to break into Cake Island to rescue Niji and Yuji. Katakuri and Owen attacked them in order to prevent them from escaping. The poison gas attacked and wounded again. Cough cough. Seeing that no one was talking, Katakuri coughed a few times and said, "The current situation is not conducive to our BIGMOM pirates, let's go to Wano Kuni to find Lule, the ancestor of the sea." What? Will the ancestors of the sea pay attention to us? It is said that the current Beasts Pirates has re-established itself and regained a lot of territory. After listening to this sentence, Perospero, Daifuku, Smoothie, Cracker and others hesitated for a while, and then subconsciously made a series of doubts and conjectures. After Kaido of the Beasts died, the Beasts Pirates are much more miserable than the BIGMOM Pirates. But, after Lule, the ancestor of the sea, was resurrected and moved to Wano Kuni in a destructive way, the Beasts Pirates were resurrected with blood. It will definitely take care of us. Katakuri took a deep breath and sighed. Don't you forget that the ancestor of the sea, Lule, is not only the boss of Kaido of the Beasts, but also the boss of his mother, Charlotte Linlin. After this sentence, everyone present was silent for a while. Of course they know that the mother, Charlotte Linlin's eldest, is the ancestor of the sea, Lule, but the problem is that the mother is dead. Does this relationship really work? Now we have no choice. Seemingly seeing everyone's concerns, Katakuri gritted his teeth and said helplessly, "If we sit still, the BIGMOM pirates may be gradually wiped out. We are in a very dangerous situation and we can go to Wano Kuni for help." Perospero hesitated for a moment, and then took the initiative to respond, "Dead horses or living horses?" At this stage, the Aokiji pirates are pressing us step by step, and Reiju, IG and others are also eyeing us. If we can get the support of the great ancestors, then whether it is the Aokiji pirates or Germa 66, it will not be a problem. Besides, Mother is not necessarily dead. Speaking of here and here, Perospero obviously paused for a moment before saying startlingly, "Before I went to Wano Kuni, my mother who was still awake secretly summoned me, probably meaning that if she died, there might still be a chance." Resurrection. Now it seems that the key to resurrection lies in the ancestor of the sea, Lule. What? Really? Mom can still be resurrected? It may be true. After all, the ancestors of the sea have been dead for more than 40 years and have been resurrected. The voice did not fall. There was an uproar at the scene. The expressions on the faces of Katakuri, Cracker, Smoothie, Owen and others became horrified and unbelievable in no particular order. What's the meaning? Mom, Charlotte Linlin still alive. Doesn't that mean that the BIGMOM pirates can get back on their feet? Now that the situation is so complicated, we don't even need for the territory of our BIGMOM pirates. The next moment, Perospero didn't care so much, his eyes were fixed, and he said in a cold tone, "Take the box that Mother left behind and set off directly to Wano Kuni. Anyway, as long as Mother can be resurrected, or get the support of the ancestors of the sea, we will be able to kill back immediately." It is good. AJ. We went to Wano Kuni collectively. Quote, after hearing this, Katakuri, Cracker, Smoothie, Owen and others did not hesitate, and nodded in no particular order. Now the BIGMOM pirates have reached a critical moment of life and death. It's worth their risk to go to Wano Kuni. That afternoon, the BIGMOM pirates who had reached an agreement packed their bags and headed for Wano Kuni in a mighty manner, giving up control of the BIGMOM waters directly. This made Vinsmoke, Reiju, IG, Caesar Current and others who were still hiding in the dark trying to wait for an opportunity to be extremely confused. Ran. The BIGMOM pirates actually ran away without even wanting the sight. And the Aokiji pirates who were invading the BIGMOM waters are also unbelievable. The BIGMOM pirates who were still resisting said they ran and ran, making them easy to occupy the BIGMOM waters without any effort. In addition to the territory of the Whitebeard pirates that has already been occupied, the Aokiji pirates have become the largest territory among the four emperors. However, after learning that the BIGMOM pirates are going to Wano Kuni, whether it's Germa 66 or the Aokiji pirates, there is an ominous premonition in their hearts, especially the Aokiji pirates, who immediately feel that the sea of Big Mom is not fragrant. The storm caused by the Straw Hat pirates continues to spread. Especially after the active voice of the Straw Hat pirates, forces such as the Kid pirates, Heart Pirates, Red Hair Pirates, Cross Guild, Aokiji Pirates, Revolutionary Army, etc., as well as the world government and marine, all urgently convened a meeting. The new captain of Red Hair Pirates, Yuta. After learning everything, he took the initiative to call the Straw Hat Pirates, and wanted to make his silly brother Luffy not be so impulsive. Now he can only give it for nothing when he goes to Wano Kuni, but the irrational Luffy simply hangs up. Broken the phone bug. He also said that even if he died, the ancestors of the sea would have to pay the price. To this end, Yuta took the initiative to lead a team to intercept the Straw Hat Pirates. Just kidding, Lule, the ancestor of the sea today, is in the prime of his life. He can't win alone. Even if Luffy can explode, what if the ancestor of the sea can also explode? It's not impossible. After all, the ancestor of the sea, Lule, can be resurrected after more than 40 years of death. What is impossible? Therefore, we can only unite all the forces that can be united, strengthen our own strength, and make a good plan to take revenge, so that the chances of winning will become greater. Not to mention, are the world government and marine still eyeing on the side? We have to guard against it. At the same time, in contrast to the undercurrent of the entire sea, Wano Kuni was much calmer. The death of General Wano Kuni Momosuke and Kazuki Sukiyaki did not make any waves. The Beast's pirates took control of Wano Kuni almost effortlessly, and began to recover the lost territory of the Beast's pirates in an orderly manner. So, less than a day, the whole Wano Kuni was restored to its former order. And the damaged flower capital, Lule simply used a few wood styles, and it was almost as good as before. As for the civilians living in Wano Kuni, samurai, ninjas, etc., they have no opinion. They support the Beast's pirates and the ancestors of the sea, Lule. At this time, inside the palace of the flower capital, cool, Lule happily walked out of a room, stretched very comfortably, and then, as if thinking of something, he said indifferently without looking back, Kazuki Hiyori, you are a smart person, you should know from what should we do from now on. By the way, if you behave well, I can find a way to resurrect your mother. Swish. After saying these two sentences, Lule walked towards his room in a flash. Why? Hearing this sentence, Kazuki Hiyori in the room couldn't help shivering. Some scenes from last night appeared inexplicably in his mind, and 2 lines of clear tears flowed silently again. That man is actually strong. He is a super big pervert. Wait a minute, can I resurrect my mother? Suddenly, Kazuki Hiyori, who was crying, was stunned, and a look of horror appeared on the pretty face of Tears Rain Pear Flower. She has no feelings for anyone else in the Kazuki family, especially that Kazuki Sukiyaki, who actually said the words of dedicating her to the ancestors of the sea, which broke her heart. But for the mother Kazuki, Kazuki Hiyori still has something to miss. If she can really be resurrected and let her know that the Kazuki family has completely failed, it may also be a relief for the mother. You really got me. Thinking of this, Kazuki Hiyori couldn't help but clenched his fist and wiped his tears. It is good, very good, isn't it, just to satisfy you? As the first Ouran of Wano Kuni, I will never let you down. At the same time, ding, congrats to host, congratulations to host, you can do whatever you want without being restrained, and the system will reward you with 2% of the experience. Ding, congratulations to host, for crushing the elephant master who has lived for thousands of years, the system specially rewarded 2% of the experience. Ding, congratulations to the host, for killing Kazuki Sukiyaki and Momosuke, the system specially rewarded 1% of the experience. Ding, congrats host, congratulations host, not giving face to the red-haired Shanks, one of the 4 emperors, but killing him neatly, the system specially rewarded 3% of the experience. Ding, I hope the host will continue to work hard, follow his heart, not be bound, and do whatever he wants. Lule, who was planning to go back to his room, suddenly heard a series of system prompts in his mind. It's finally here, the system really didn't let me down. Hearing the reminder sound in his mind, Lule was stunned for a moment, and then the corners of his mouth twitched slightly. This trip to Wano Kuni has been quite rewarding, and it is foreseeable that this wave of experience will bring his strength to an earth-shattering turn, transformation. Boom, the next moment, without any warning, a majestic energy poured into Lule's body at an unbelievable speed, and began to transform Lule's body again. At this time, if someone has clairvoyance, then I found that the pervert cells in Lule's body were still transforming like crazy, and even armament hockey, conqueror's hockey, Chatanla, etc. were changing. Quote. Pipe exclamation mark. Quote. After about half an hour. Only then did Lule recover, and he couldn't help moving his muscles and bones. Clap, clap, it's the sound of bones intertwining. Obviously, this transformation has brought a qualitative change to Lule's strength. System, I want to take a look at my latest attribute panel. The next moment, with anticipation, Lule's eyes moved, and he silently ordered. Ding, host's property panel is being generated. Ding, the property panel is generated. Host, Lule. Age, 18 years old. Check Jiao caret attributes. Fire, wind, thunder, earth, water, yin, yang. Abilities. First Hokage template of Senju Hashirama peak state unlock 100% fusion Marine 6 styles Grandmaster observation hockey top armament hockey advanced conquerors hockey top awakening exclusive ability overlord kilt Motherlander template peak state unlock fusion 78% strength. Constitution 132,630 10 points for ordinary people. Strength 166000 one punch is about 309,690 tons. Speed 3,250, 3040 approximately 3,200 meters s. Heat rays 1089500 approximately 1,191,000 degrees Celsius. The number of times to extract the template 0. The attribute growth is too fast, it seems to have doubled directly. Lule glanced at the attribute panel that only he could see. Even if he was mentally prepared, he couldn't help but let out a surprised voice. No way. In fact, the data in the attribute panel is getting more and more luxurious. The physique has reached more than 13,000 times that of ordinary people, and the mental power has also broken 10,000. One punch can hit 39,690 tons of power, coupled with the speed of almost 10 times the speed of sound, and breaking 110,000 degrees Celsius heat sight. Even if you look at it, Lule was a little excited. Have nothing to say. The stronger he is, the more he can do whatever he wants. Moreover, he has only now unlocked and fused the peak Motherland template to 78%. Next, as long as he continues to unlock and fuse, he will only become stronger and more pervert. Not to mention, after the integration of the peak Motherland template, he can also extract new templates. It's just a bright future, isn't it? Hancock, are you here? Soon, Lule put away the gender panel, glanced at Hancock who was standing not far away, stunned, and said lightly. What? Hancock screamed. After she woke up, she didn't see Lule's figure. After she went out, she found that Lule was standing there with a happy face. Then she was surprised to feel that the breadth of Lule's body was gradually increasing. Strong, seems to have become even more unfathomable. Can you still be like this? Can you become stronger by standing there? But, Empress is Empress. He quickly regained his senses, folded his arms on his chest, and said with a cold face, I woke up, come out and take a walk. Oh, Lule raised his brows, but didn't say anything. His body flashed before Hancock's scream, Vice Admiral, and she hugged her into the room by the waist. Just got stronger. He's going to have a good time. After 3 hours, inside a conference room of the palace. Lule is sitting in the main seat. Jin, Quinn, Jack, Morgans, Fuzzy F, Black Maria and others are all gathered together. Lord Lule, the Straw Hat Pirates have left in a rage from Egg Tip Island in the land of the future. Holding the latest intelligence document, Morgans said in a disdainful tone, it is said that they have already rushed towards Aswanokuni, and the Straw Hat Luffy has even released ruthless words, even death will make you pay the price. Hee. If the Straw Hat Pirates come, I will let Wong Luffy know why the flowers are so red. After hearing this, Lule shrugged indifferently, and said indifferently, I'm afraid the Straw Hat Pirates wouldn't dare to come. Ha ha ha. Morgans laughed loudly when he heard the words, and added, now the major forces in the sea are paying attention to the movement of the Straw Hat Pirates, and they seem to want to participate in it. After all, Lord Lule, You were really too strong, it made too many forces feel threatened, and now the most widely circulated in the sea is the ancestral threat theory. The threat theory of the great ancestors should have been invented by the world government. Jin frowned and added in a low voice, to make Lord Lule the target of public criticism, this should be the ultimate goal of world government. I have this hunch too. Morgans restrained his smile and said solemnly, if I remember correctly, it was because Lord Lule became the target of public criticism more than 40 years ago that he was besieged by 13 top combat powers in the sea. Now the world government should is to repeat the old tricks. Boom. Upon hearing this, Jack the Drow, who had already become a fan of the great ancestors, stood up and patted the table, and said violently, world government, really, 5 elders is not a thing, and that I am only make little moves behind your back. Ah. See this scene. Jin shook his head with a headache, and said helplessly, Jack, calm down, now we are in a meeting. Ah, Jack the Drow touched his head, smiled awkwardly, and sat down again. Don't worry, it's different now. Looking at Jack, Lule didn't get angry, instead, a curve appeared at the corner of his mouth, and he said confidently, this time, no matter what conspiracy and tricks I am has, it won't work. Certainly, Lule didn't say a word. That is, as the ancestor of the sea, he will not be so scruples. Under the circumstance that the strength is getting stronger and stronger, it will not take the world government's intrigues and tricks in the eyes. Whoever dares to do it will do it, do whatever they want, and kill it. In a word, if the entire sea is on the opposite side, then why would he, as an ancestor, be the enemy of the entire sea? Correct. Suddenly, Quinn's fat cheek moved, and she said, Lord Lule, the Bigmom pirates have entered our Wano-kuni and said they are here to find you. The Bigmom pirates. Lule nodded and said casually, it seems that it is time to put the resurrection of Kaido and Charlotte Linlin on the agenda. All right. After returning to Wano-kuni, Lule had a good perception, but found that the underground magma in this area did not have the breath of Kaido and Charlotte Linlin at all. For this reason, he also specifically dived into the underground magma of Wano-kuni and searched for it, but he couldn't find a single hair. In the end, he gave up and planned to use impure world reincarnation to resurrect Kaido and Charlotte Linlin. It's just, Lule's heart is uncertain whether he can successfully cast impure world reincarnation in One Piece world. What, are you going to resurrect old Kaido Yamato Charlotte Linlin? Lord Lule, is this true? We heard right. This sentence is like a thunderclap on the ground. It's not easy for Jin, Quinn, Jack and the others to remain calm and stand up with excited expressions. They hoped for the stars and the moon and finally waited for this sentence. If I could, I wouldn't just resurrect Kaido and Charlotte Linlin. Lule narrowed his eyes slightly, showing a cold smile, and said arrogantly, I want to make the whole sea run wild. What, more than just resurrecting Kaido and Charlotte Linlin? Doesn't that mean there will be a resurrection? Jin, Quinn, Jack and others, who were still in a state of excitement, fell into a blank space after a buzzing sound in their minds. They are not fools or idiots. Of course they know the potential meaning of Lord Lule. If some dead powerhouses are resurrected and stand on their side, the sensation will definitely make the whole sea explode completely, and get crazy. Certainly, it will also make Lord Lule the public enemy of the whole sea in disguise. At that time, the world government may not be able to bear it any longer, and the boss of the 5 elders, Yim, may not be able to sit still, not to mention the major pirate groups and marines, all of them will enter a state of panic and rampage. Okay, Jin, Quinn, Jack and others really couldn't imagine what the sea would look like at that time. Gollum, so Lord Lule really has a way to bring the dead back to life. Morgan swallowed cautiously, only to feel that his soul was trembling slightly. This was not a trembling with fear, but a trembling with excitement when he learned of a shocking news. It can be imagined, after this news is exposed, what kind of storm will the sea set off. Quinn, the flesh and blood of your Kaido boss, you should have it there, right? Not long after Jin, Quinn, Jack and others had calmed down a little, Lule asked indifferently. Quinn nodded hurriedly and said, a long time ago, Lord Kaido left some flesh and blood for me to keep, saying that it would be of great use, could it be? It's not over yet. Quinn couldn't help but widened his eyes in horror. Lule thought for a moment, then said lightly, More than 40 years ago, I told Kaido and Charlotte Linlin to store some of my own flesh and blood, and even if I die, I can find a way to bring them back to life. Lord Lule, what do you mean? Hearing this sentence, Quinn's eyes lit up slightly, suppressing the horror in his heart, and showing a very interested expression. In Beast's Pirates, he is not only one of the 3 disasters, but also an extremely excellent scientist. He not only developed biochemical weapons such as mummies and ice ghosts, but also transformed his own body. Similar technology can use similar abilities to the Vinsmoke family. Now Lord Lule asks about Lord Kaido's flesh and blood. It must have something to do with the resurrection. With the flesh and blood of the dead, and then prepare some things, you can basically perform that ninjutsu. Lule didn't explain that much. Chakra surging all over his body, and he patted his hands lightly. Poochie poochie. The next moment, 6 wooden golems appeared in the conference room. Quinn, can you build me 6 artificial humans based on these 6 wooden golems? Lule pointed to the 6 wooden golems and asked. Lord Lule, I've even remodeled my own body, it's just a trivial matter to create 6 androids. After hearing this, Quinn patted his chest and said confidently, Lord Lule, give me a day, no, half a day, I can do it. It is good. Lule smiled with satisfaction and said meaningfully, if you are ready, then I can use that ninjutsu. Quote. Quinn's eyes lit up, and without hesitation, he led the 6 wooden golems out of the conference room. The meeting. Until Quinn leaves. After Lule left a sentence, he disappeared into the conference room in a flash. Only Jin, Jack, Morgans and others who are still in a state of excitement are left. Next, they may witness an unprecedented miracle, and they don't need to know that the magic of Lord Lule must be someone. A very terrifying ninjutsu. The other side. After leaving the meeting room, Lule hurriedly returned to his room. System, you just reminded me that impure world reincarnation can be optimized for use in pirate world. Katakana middle dot flowers katakana middle dot. Ding. Host, with only 10 devil fruits energy, I can optimize the impure world reincarnation, so that you can use it perfectly in the pirate world, otherwise, impure world reincarnation in the Hokage world, is it? Possibly used in pirate world. Are you really an old 6th? Hearing this sentence, Lule subconsciously thought of the 6 devil fruits in the box given by King Neptune when he left the Fishman Island, plus the 4 collected in Wano-kuni, a total of 6 pieces of devil fruit. There are 10 devil fruits. Originally, he wanted to take the time to use it himself. But he didn't expect that the system would have been eyeing it for a long time. Certainly, the system says so. Then his worries came true. Impure world reincarnation in Hokage world really can't be used directly in pirate world. Simply put, certainly cannot use the sword of the previous dynasty to kill the officials of this dynasty. Thinking of this, Lule didn't bother to worry about anything anymore. He took out the box under the table and said, System, please help me optimize impure world reincarnation into a pirate version. Ding. Congratulations to host, the pirate version of impure world reincarnation has been successfully optimized. The beep just dropped. The optimized impure world reincarnation appeared in Lule's mind. Immediately afterwards, the 10 devil fruits in the box seemed to have lost their moisture, and only a layer of skin was left. Obviously the energy was absorbed. Get it? After a little sense of the pirate version of impure world reincarnation, Lule couldn't help but waved his fist. Next, his plan can be implemented perfectly. After half a day, on a heavily guarded square in the palace, Charlotte Katakuri and the others who had just arrived at Wano-kuni were also brought here, and the box they brought was taken away by Quinn. Needless to say, the box was packed in advance by Charlotte Linlin. The flesh that remains. At this time, around the square, Jin of the Beast's Pirates, Quinn, Jack, Foz Fu, Black Maria and others are already in place. Charlotte Perospero, Charlotte Katakuri and others from the BIGMOM Pirates also found a place to stand excitedly. No way. After arriving at Wano-kuni, Jin told them great news. That is the ancestor of the sea, Lord Lule, who is going to perform a kind of ninjutsu that is shaking the ghosts and gods, to resurrect Lord Kaido and Charlotte Linlin. When they heard the news, Charlotte Perospero, Charlotte Katakuri and other officials of the BIGMOM pirates were stunned for a while, and then they were so excited that they wanted to cry. This time, they bet everything, but I didn't expect that when I arrived in Wano-kuni, 783, got a good news, my mother, Charlotte Linlin, was going to be resurrected. What surprised the officials of the BIGMOM pirates even more was that Jin also prepared some flesh and blood left over from Elephant Lord for them to take. These supplements made the wounds of the officials of the BIGMOM pirates quicker. The speed of recovery has increased, and the spirit and energy have also improved a lot. Of course, in addition to the cadres of the Beasts pirates, the cadres of the BIGMOM pirates, there are also Morgans, Hancock, Kazuki Hiyori, and the Takako, Yamato. Can it really resurrect the dead? We have to trust Lord Lule. Didn't you see that Jin, Quinn, Jack and others are full of confidence? Once Mother is really revived, the BIGMOM pirates will be the only ancestor of the sea, Lule, from now on. It seemed that they had been waiting for a long time, and some officials of the BIGMOM pirates couldn't help whispering. In addition to the look of anticipation in their eyes, there was anxiety. If you can really bring the dead back to life, Lord Lule is really powerful. Hancock folded his arms and couldn't help sighing. But, seems to have thought of something. Hancock's beautiful eyes seemed to have water light flickering. Could it really be possible to bring the dead back to life? Kazuki Hiyori took a deep breath and suppressed the throbbing in her heart. She had already decided that if Lord Lule really brought Kaido and Charlotte Linlin back to life, then she would take out her own as the first Oran of Wano-kuni. He has the ability to watch the house. Father Kaido, if you were resurrected, will you hit me? Yamato stood there blankly. In the past few days, many scenes of living with Kaido's father flashed in her mind. Before she knew it, Kazuki Oden had disappeared in her mind, and the influence of Ace and Wong Luffy on her had also decreased a lot. So much so that she saw the Straw Hat Pirates approaching Wano-kuni aggressively from Eggtip Island, and she only made a little waves in her heart and disappeared. Is it useful to come to Wano-kuni now? Eating shit can't keep up with the hot. Swish. Just at this time, Lule appeared in the center of the square with a sound of breaking the air. Quiet. In an instant, the scene returned to a dead silence, as if a needle could be heard falling to the ground. Almost. Lule didn't hesitate and took a deep breath. If there is no systematic help, he is still worried, and now, he is not worried at all, waiting to witness the miracle and it will be over. In the next instant, accompanied by a wave of terrifying chakra, an immortal magic trick, Lule's face appeared on his cheeks, and his hands were rarely printed a few times, and the improved version of Impure World Reincarnation was completed by him. Scoff. Scoff. Without any sign, a slight spatial fluctuation occurs. Two coffins were summoned out of a black hole and placed upright on the ground. One of the coffins is marked Beasts, the other is marked BIGMOM, which is obviously a Kaido of the Beasts, and the other is Charlotte Linlin. Is this Kaido's coffin? Something's wrong. Isn't Kaido's boss dead? Mother's coffin appeared. Could it be that the mother's body was in the coffin? Is this a miracle? Along with the appearance of the two coffins, there was a rapid uproar in the originally quiet scene, and some people couldn't help rubbing their eyes, for fear that they would lose sight. But, no matter how you rub it, the names on the two coffins seemed to be Kaido of the Beasts and Charlotte Linlin. Open. At this time, Lule glanced at the coffin and gave an order in a deep voice. Bang, bang, accompanied by two crisp voices. The coffin lids of the two coffins were opened in unison and fell to the ground. Inside the coffins, there were two corpses with cracks on their bodies, exuding a strong sense of death. Take a closer look. Isn't that the dead Kaido of the Beasts and Charlotte Linlin? After a few seconds, one of the corpses opened his eyes in a daze, as if he had not yet reacted to what was going on. If I remember correctly, wasn't he smashed into the underground magma by Wong Luffy, and he died without a whole body? How can he still open his eyes now? So many familiar auras. Kaido, have we been resurrected? Another corpse came out of the coffin and said incredulously, could it be? Could it be that Lord Lule really resurrected us? Quote, isn't that smell the smell of Lord Lule? After listening to this sentence, Kaido of the Beasts was instantly shaken, and he knew what was going on in an instant. It must be Jin who went to West Blue to resurrect Lord Lule. Now that Lule has come to Wano-kuni, he and Charlotte have been resurrected. Linlin 3.6. Lord Lule. Lord Lule. Without any hesitation. Under the watchful eyes of everyone, Kaido of the Beasts and Charlotte Linlin, who had just been resurrected, completely disregarded their image and face, and looked at Lule, who was standing in the center. Sad voice. It's just that the voice is very sad, and the cry is also obvious. But neither Kaido of the Beasts nor Charlotte Linlin saw tears fall from their cheeks. All of a sudden, the two froze in place. How could there be no tears? It is as embarrassing as it is to be embarrassed for a while. Kaido of the Beasts and Charlotte Linlin have some awkwardness. Originally wanted to express the excitement in his heart after his resurrection, but found that his body after resurrection seemed a little weird. However, just when the two were embarrassed there, the officials of the Beasts Pirates and the BIGMOM Pirates have all shown expressions of horror to ultimate, and there is only one thought in their minds, that is resurrection. Shit, Lord Lule really brought Kaido's old Yamato Charlotte Linlin back to life. Shocking. Extremely shocking, even if you were already mentally prepared. But when they actually saw Kaido of the Beasts and Charlotte Linlin standing in the square, everyone was still shocked. 1 second, 2 seconds, 3 seconds, with the passage of time. Until seeing Kaido of the Beasts and Charlotte Linlin kneeling in front of Lord Lule, the people who were shocked to ultimate gradually woke up like a dream. Jin, Quinn, Jack, Charlotte Perospero, Charlotte Katakuri and others almost couldn't help but exclaimed. Immediately after, countless exclamations gathered together, which directly shook the entire Flower Capital. Really resurrected. Morgans, Hancock, Kazuki Hiyori, Yamato and others almost widened their eyes, with unbelievable expressions flashing on their cheeks. There was no way, even now, they looked at the living Kaido and Charlotte Linlin, and there was something in their hearts. An unreal feeling. It seems that something is wrong with our body. It seems that the eating disorder is gone. Apart from the lack of temperature, the new body is really excellent. It seems to have unlimited armament hockey and conqueror's hockey, and the strength seems to be not much different from our peak. If there is no misunderstanding, our new body is no longer flesh and blood, and it feels in a state of immortality. The energy of the devil fruit in the form of a fish, a phantom, and a blue dragon is still there. In the field, as the emperor who once ruled the sea, Kaido of the Beasts and Charlotte Linlin sensed their resurrected bodies after realizing they had no tears. As a result, I don't know, I was shocked when I felt it. It turned out that their bodies were no longer flesh and blood. They seemed to be composed of countless dust, not to mention tears, even blood, urine, bones, etc. There is none left. You don't kneel. At this time, Lule glanced at Kaido and Charlotte Linlin, and said with a chuckle, in a sense, you are immortal, and you should be able to exert the power of your peak. All right, system optimized Impure World Reincarnation. The pros and cons of the Hokage version of Impure World Reincarnation are similar. In addition, as a spellcaster, he used the fairy magic wooden golem as the main composition of the artificial human, which made Kaido of the Beasts and Charlotte Linlin almost resurrected with full strength, and more importantly, the ability of devil fruit is still there. Really, Charlotte Linlin, who was in a state of uncertainty, made a surprised voice again, Lord Lule, you are so kind to us. Lord Lule, after you died, you don't even know how I lived for the past 40 years. Kaido's tone was a little sad, and he said helplessly, I wanted to build an anarchic pirate empire on the eve of your resurrection, but an accident happened. I was defeated by the Straw Hat Luffy of the Straw Hat Pirates. Having said that, Kaido also showed a look of annoyance. Knowing that Straw Hat Luffy would frantically explode into Nika form, he should resurrect Lord Lule first, and then hold a fire celebration. Fortunately, Lord Lule resurrected him and Charlotte Linlin. It is also a fortune in misfortune. Well, I see. Lule waved his hand with a light smile, and said meaningfully, you guys first go and find out what happened in the sea recently, and I have to resurrect 4 more people. Clear. ... Kaido and Charlotte Linlin didn't hesitate either, got up in a hurry and walked towards their own pirate cadres. The two also wanted to know what happened to the situation in the sea after the resurrection of Lord Lule, and if there was any change, and also wanted to know where the Straw Hat Luffy of the Straw Hat Pirates went. Was it killed by Lord Lule? After Kaido and Charlotte Linlin left, Luolei's mind was moved, and the whole body chakra was surging, and he made a few more seals. Scoff, scoff. A slight spatial fluctuation occurs. But, this time, 4 consecutive coffins were summoned from a black hole and placed upright on the square. From left to right, the coffins were marked with battle, card, black, and red. Open, clang, clang, with the sound of coffin boards falling to the ground. 4 coffins were opened in no particular order, and inside were the marine hero, Garp, the former marine marshal, Sengoku, Marshal D. Teach, one of the former 4 emperors, and the red-haired Shanks. Marshal D. Teach opened his eyes first, a look of doubt flashed in his eyes. Isn't he already dead? Even if he became an unprecedented 3-fruit ability person, he was killed by Luolei, the ancestor of the sea, and he was hated in the Sea of 9 Snakes. How can he live again now? How is this possible? Garp walked out of the coffin and exclaimed, "Isn't the old man already dead in the hands of the ancestors of the sea?" What? After hearing this, an unbelievable look came from the other coffin. Garp, are you dead too? Sengoku. When Garp heard the words, he was stunned for a moment, and then he said with great surprise, "I finally saw you. Could this be Wonkwon? This is not a yellow spring, we should be resurrected by the ancestors of the sea." The red-haired Shanks came out of the coffin, glanced bitterly at Luolei who was standing not far away, and said with a sigh, "Even if he died, he never let us go, and things are a bit difficult." What? This is really the breath of the ancestors of the sea. He resurrected us. What did he want to do? Wouldn't he want to use us? With the voice of the redhead Shanks, Blackbeard, Garp, and Sengoku began to observe the surrounding environment after realizing it. At first glance, I saw Luolei, an indifferent ancestor of the sea, followed by the cadres of the Beasts Pirates, the cadres of the Bigmom Pirates, and Kaido of the Beasts and Charlotte Linlin who were in the same state. In an instant, Blackbeard, Garp, and Sengoku froze. The joy of resurrection was gone, and there was only a sense of fear that made them creepy. On the other hand, Kaido of the Beasts and Charlotte Linlin, who had just been resurrected from impure world reincarnation, also probably knew something about what happened to the sea after their death. In addition to being stunned, they were shocked. Especially seeing the resurrected Sengoku, Garp, Blackbeard, and red-haired Shanks was even more horrified. Lord Luolei is worthy of being the ancestor of the sea. After being resurrected, he has done so many earth-shattering events. Now he does not let go of the last value of the dead. Luolei, what exactly are you trying to do? After a few seconds, Sengoku took a deep breath and roared with an ugly face, "We are already dead, but you have resurrected us against common sense. You are completely blaspheming our souls." Seems to be extremely angry. Sengoku wanted to do something when his mind moved, but he found that he couldn't control his body at all. Our bodies simply don't obey. Beside him, Garp clenched his fist wrapped around armament hockey, and said gloomily, "If I guess correctly, even if we are resurrected, our bodies will be controlled by Luolei." Sengoku made a sound of incompetent fury. As for the red-haired Shanks and Blackbeard, although they did not speak, their faces were the same ugly and aggrieved. As a strong man, they also have their own pride and dignity, and now they are resurrected like a marionette by the ancestors of the sea. What is this? Ha ha. Luolei showed a disdainful expression, and said indifferently, "If you die in my hands, you must be prepared to be resurrected as tools. Whatever Lao Su asks you to do, you can do it for me." In fact, starting from killing Sengoku, Luolei purposely let Wood Clone collect some flesh and blood of the strong people he killed, and seal them in the scroll, and now it can come in handy. Garp, Sengoku, Redhead Shanks, Blackbeard are speechless. Listen, is this still what people say? The ancestors of the sea are really too lawless. The corners of Luolei's mouth were slightly raised, and he snorted coldly, "If you perform well, I can let you control your own body." Really? The voice did not fall. Blackbeard, who was still standing on a united front with Garp and others, flashed a ray of light in his eyes. He could see Kaido of the Beasts and Charlotte Linlin, who were also resurrected, and his body was completely uncontrolled. It must be true. Luolei shrugged lightly and said slowly, "Since you have been resurrected, let's do something that will make the whole sea go berserk." The next moment, It seems to have received instructions from Lule. The expressions of Sengoku, Garp, red-haired Shanks, and Blackbeard changed suddenly, and they wanted to say something, but they found that their bodies were out of control, and their bodies flew out towards Wano Kuni's pier in a flash. It's time to start the final step. Lule looked at the backs of Sengoku and the others leaving, a coldness flashed across his cheeks, and muttered to himself, if you have the ability, you can continue to endure it, and you will be done when you see my crescent moon rise into the sky. Quote. And after Sengoku, Garp, red-haired Shanks, and Blackbeard left, Lule turned his eyes, glanced at Kaido of the Beasts and Charlotte Linlin, and said softly, if you have nothing to do, go for a walk in the Bigmom waters. Understood. Ha ha ha, that's exactly what I mean, I have to move my muscles and bones just after being resurrected. After hearing this, having roughly understood what happened to the sea during this time, Kaido of the Beasts and Charlotte Linlin both laughed violently. The world thought they were dead. Then this time, the sea is ready to shake violently. Okay, that's it for now, everyone can leave. Swish. A cracking sound rang out. Lule's body disappeared in the square. Next, he wants to control Garp, Sengoku, Redhead Shanks, Blackbeard, and go to the sea to do things. Gone. Let's go for a walk. Accompanied by a wave of terror, Kaido of the Beasts turned into a giant blue dragon carrying Charlotte Linlin, came with a very elegant dragon wagging its tail, and disappeared neatly in the flower capital. After being silent for so long, it's time for our Beasts pirates to enter the fighting state. Jin took a deep breath, suppressed the throbbing in his heart, and left the scene with the excited Quinn, Jack and others. Let's go too. Charlotte Perospero, Charlotte Katakuri and others from the Bigmom pirates looked at each other, and they could see the joy in their eyes. With the resurrection of Mom, Charlotte Linlin. Next, you don't have to think about it, the Bigmom pirates will come to the New World again. I should get ready too. Morgan's eyes were full of excitement. This time, he didn't have to think about it to know that the newspaper of the news of the world would cause the whole sea to rush. Even if he thought about it, he had some expectations. I have to behave better and try to revive my mother as soon as possible. A blush flashed on Kazuki Hiyori's pretty face, and it was time to use the trends she had seen in the book on Lord Lule. Wano Kuni's first Oran is about to be unlocked to the full body. The concubine is convinced. Hancock blinked a few times with a pair of watery eyes, and left the square thoughtfully. Soon, the people in the square are almost gone. Only Yamato was standing there in a state of despair. After Kaido's father was resurrected, he didn't even look at her, which made Yamato, who was still hopeful, unable to accept it. Dad Kaido, I already knew I was wrong. Yamato seemed to be wearing a mask of pain, showing a helpless expression to Ultimate. She would rather Father Kaido beat her and scold her, so that her heart would feel better, and she did not want Father Kaido to ignore her like this, as if there was no daughter like her. I won't give up. Yamato clenched his fists and muttered to himself, Dad Kaido, I will never let you down this time. At the same time, after Sengoku, Garp, Blackbeard, red-haired Shanks arrived at a pier off Wano Kuni, they boarded a pirate ship and headed for naval headquarters in New World. That's right, the ancestors of the sea. Lule gave them the order to destroy naval headquarters and plunder naval headquarters military supplies. What happened? We were resurrected. Garp sensed the state of his body, and said with an ugly face, I have used all kinds of methods, but I can't get rid of the control of the ancestor of the sea, Lule. Garp, you're an idiot and an idiot. After hearing this, Sengoku couldn't help being annoyed and said, I'm going to die when I die, why do you want to die? It's really confusing the more you live. Quote. Garp grinned, snorted coldly, and said, you're dead, what's the point of me living with an old bone? It's better to challenge the ancestors of the sea, who died 100 times. Then you can't go to die. Sengoku obviously knew Garp's character, turned his head to look at the sea in front of him, his eyes showed concern, and said, I'm afraid we will bring a lot of trouble to naval headquarters next. After the resurrection, our strength seems to be at its peak. It's very troublesome. Garp's face became solemn, and he said incredulously, how could Lule, the ancestor of the sea, master such pervert of ninjutsu? The sea is about to start messing up. Yes, red-haired Shanks showed a wry smile and said, with my left arm restored, my strength will be even more terrifying. I wonder if Naval Headquarters can resist it. It should be hard to resist. Sengoku felt his body for a moment, and said extremely heavily, the armament hockey is almost endless, and the body seems to be immortal. Naval Headquarters is doomed. Alas, the red-haired Shanks sighed and said, it's only one step at a time. Shanks, when did you get killed? Suddenly, as if thinking of something, Garp asked curiously, could it be that the red-hair pirates have been wiped out? I was killed in Wano-kuni. Red-haired Shanks shook his head and sighed with emotion. It's not because your precious grandson didn't respond after he went to the country of the future, so I know that there are tigers in the mountains and they tend to travel in the mountains. Ha ha ha, Garp couldn't help laughing, and said, you are also because of Luffy. My grandson Luffy is really charismatic. I don't know if Luffy has come out of the future country, he must not be impulsive. Ignoring Garp, who was indifferent, the red-haired Shanks thought about it for a while, and then said with some worry, the ancestor of the sea, Lule is already very strong, and he can continue to resurrect those dead powerhouses. Luffy, if I go alone, I'm afraid I won't be wiped out by the group. Probably not. Garp hesitated for a moment, and his mood suddenly became bad. Ha ha, and Blackbeard, who had never spoken, flashed a sneer on his cheek, but didn't bother to say anything. It is better to die than to live. Now that he is resurrected, even if he is a puppet, he is happy. Moreover, as long as he performed well, he could regain control of his body. He, Blackbeard, the invincible three-fruit ability person, had to perform well no matter what. New World, Marine G1 Headquarters, similar to Marineford's layout. After becoming Naval Headquarters, the entire fortress has been greatly strengthened and doubled, and it has already become a fortress beyond Marineford. From afar, the great fortress stands there. On the front of the fortress, there are two characters, Marine, engraved on it, and in the center is the logo of Marine, which is a pattern of a seagull. At this time, inside the Marshal's office at the top of the fortress, Marshal, Sakazuki and General Commander, Kong are sitting there. This time, when I came to Naval Headquarters, I just wanted to tell you, Marine, that when the time is right, the world government will be in full swing, and even the five elders will take an unprecedented shot. Kong folded his arms in front of him, and said solemnly, strive to kill the ancestors of the sea at one time, so that they will never be born again. It is good. Sakazuki clenched his fist and said with a cold expression, Marine has already prepared and ordered, and is waiting for the world government's order. Okay, then I'll go back to Mariajoy first. Kong nodded, hesitated for a while, and then said solemnly, if possible, destroy the Straw Hat Pirates together. This, Sakazuki frowned, but nodded firmly. There is nothing to say. When Garp was alive, Marine gave him all the face he deserved. Now that he is dead, he has done his best to deal with the Straw Hat Pirates. This is a Four Emperors pirate like Straw Hat Luffy. Then I'll go first. However, just when Kong wanted to stand up and leave the office, a Marine's rear admiral was like a ghost. He didn't even knock on the door, he hurriedly pushed the door in, and said in a hurried tone, Commander Air, Marshal Sakazuki, something is bad. Watching the sudden intrusion into Marine Rear Admiral, both Sakazuki and Kong were stunned for a moment, then burst into rage. They were having a meeting and a little Rear Admiral came in without even knocking on the door, which was unruly. However, when I was about to get angry, the trembling Marine Rear Admiral said in an unbelievable tone, a large pirate ship is approaching Naval Headquarters, and on the deck seems to be the dead Sengoku Inspector General and Marine Hero, Garp, and Blackbeard. And Red Hair Fragrance Zhao Qian Zhao. Boom. After saying this, the Marine Rear Admiral was too terrified, his legs slumped on the ground, showing a ghostly look. What did you say? The anger on Sakazuki and Kong's cheeks froze, and they couldn't help but let out an exclamation. What are you kidding? Didn't Sengoku, Garp, Blackbeard, Redhead Shanks all die? How could it be possible to stand on the deck? Quote. The Marine Rear Admiral was about to cry, and said tremblingly, I've confirmed it several times, it's really Garp Vice Admiral and Sengoku Inspector General, Blackbeard and red-haired Shanks are also there. At the beginning, this Marine Rear Admiral also thinks he is wrong. But, after confirming it again and again, I couldn't help but tremble and report to the Marshal's office. After all, 4 people have been confirmed dead. Standing in front of me alive, no matter how I think about it, my scalp is tingling. Walk. Let's go take a look. Sakazuki and Kong's eyes flashed with suspicion, and without any hesitation, they rushed out of the office in no particular order. Chapter 91. At this time, on the rolling sea, a pirate ship is quickly heading towards naval headquarters in New World. On the deck, Sengoku, Garp, red-haired Shanks, Blackbeard are standing on the bow, looking at the approaching naval headquarters. Their expressions are different. Among them, Sengoku and Garp's faces were extremely bitter and helpless. They used to go back to naval headquarters to go home, but now they went back to destroy naval headquarters. The feeling of powerlessness made them very tormented and painful. The red-haired Shanks' complexion is also extremely complicated. He has hardly ever been to the naval headquarters in the New World. Now, he will destroy the naval headquarters the first time he goes there. As for Blackbeard, in addition to being uneasy, he clenched his fist slightly, and there was a faint trace of excitement on his cheek. As the predecessor of the 4 emperors, he did not dare to destroy the naval headquarters when he was alive, but when he died, he was able to destroy the naval headquarters. That feeling made Blackbeard's heart very comfortable. Of course, if it's him alone, the chances are very slim, but, with the redhead Shanks, Sengoku, Garp, the chances are great. Equivalent to the 4 emperors joining forces to attack naval headquarters. Opportunities are great. At the same time, when this pirate ship was heading towards naval headquarters, the 3 top warships of naval headquarters also seemed to have noticed an abnormality, and when they were about to approach interception, they found Sengoku, Garp, red-haired man standing on the deck. Shanks, Blackbeard 4. In an instant, the Marines on the deck were all stunned, as if they had seen a ghost. What's the situation? The dead Sengoku Inspector General, Garp Vice Admiral, the red-haired Shanks and Blackbeard of one of the 4 emperors, why are they standing on the deck? Is there a mistake? Very few timid Marine soldiers are soft and almost scared, slumped on the deck. Certainly. In fact, it's not just Marines on warships. Even on the naval headquarters fortress, many Marines with binoculars were fooled. After confirming it again and again, a naval headquarters rear admiral flew towards the marshal's office with an unbelievable look on his face. Has it finally been discovered? See the 3 naval headquarters top warships nearby. Sengoku's expression condensed. He took a deep breath, and shouted loudly, I am the former marshal of naval headquarters, Sengoku, you should all know me. Now I can't control my body, so you all quickly evacuate naval headquarters. Boom. When the voice mixed with Conqueror's haki spread out, it spread all over the sea in an instant. In an instant, not only the Marines on the 3 naval headquarters top warships, but even the Marines in the naval headquarters fortress were stunned. Even Kong and Sakazuki, who had just flew out, were startled. Resurrected. Did the dead Sengoku really come back to life? Even with Garp, redhead Shanks, Blackbeard resurrected. How is this possible? Who resurrected them? Why did Sengoku let Marine withdraw from naval headquarters? Countless questions, just like 100,000 whys. In the minds of Kong, Sakazuki and other Marines. Of course, with these shocking words, Kizaru, Green Bull, Fujitora, one of Marine's 3 admirals, as well as Marine's high-end combat power, such as Staff Crane, Dark Horse, Momoshiki, and so on, all flew to naval headquarters fortress from all directions with horrified expressions. The top of the. Immediately after, countless Marines saw an unforgettable scene. I saw Blackbeard on the pirate ship, and suddenly his body involuntarily took a step forward. At the same time, he clenched his fists violently, and the concussive force like a white halo gathered on the fist BJDG and then slammed it. Air. Clap, clap. The sound of air bursting resounded. Is this the power of shock fruit? Sengoku and Garp's expressions changed greatly, and they hurriedly shouted at the 3 Marine top-level warships not far away, you guys back up quickly. What? Quickly retreat. In fact, there was no need for Sengoku and Garp to remind them. Looking at the shocking power of the cracks in the air, the Marines on the 3 naval headquarters top warships suddenly recovered and wanted to evacuate urgently. Boom. However, at this time, the red-haired Shanks, who had been motionless for a long time, burst out with an imposing shock wave that shot straight into the sky, suppressing the 3 top naval headquarters warships. King to the sea, heaven and earth surrender. There was almost no resistance, and the Marine soldiers on the 3 naval headquarters top warships had not reacted, and they felt a buzzing sound in their minds, and a blank. Boom. After a few seconds, the force of shock slammed into the top warships of the 3 naval headquarters with a destructive force. The seemingly sturdy top-level warship, in the face of the violent shock force, only lasted for less than 5 seconds, and was shattered by the shock. The soldiers were swept into the waves without any power to fight back. Quiet. Looking at the destroyed 3 Marine top-level warships, naval headquarters fell into a silence, and it seemed that they did not expect Blackbeard and red-haired Shanks to do it, and there was no sign at all. Blackbeard, redhead Shanks, what do you want to do? See this scene. Garp and Sengoku were split-eyed and roared loudly. Ha ha. Blackbeard shrugged indifferently, and said helplessly, my body is out of control, and I have no choice. Certainly. Say so. Blackbeard still feels pretty cool inside. The red-haired Haki, with his shock fruit powers, was a match for his face, wiping out 3 of the top naval headquarters warships without breaking a sweat. Alas. Me too. The red-haired Shanks sighed helplessly and said, if the Marine soldiers of naval headquarters don't retreat, the next outbreak of Conqueror's Haki may not be as simple as before. What are you still doing? Sengoku raised his head and roared angrily, the Marine soldiers of naval headquarters are all evacuating for me. What's the situation? Sengoku, Garp, what the hell is going on with you? Are you trying to attack our naval headquarters? Hearing Sengoku's voice, Sakazuki, Kong, Kizaru, Green Bull and other talents in naval headquarters fortress came back to their senses and showed expressions of shock to ultimate, especially when they saw the destruction of the 3 top Marine warships. They immediately realized to the seriousness of the matter. We were resurrected by our ancestor Lule with a secret technique, and now we can't control our bodies, so let Marine all evacuate naval headquarters. Garp took a deep breath and said loudly, next, we may be together. Attack naval headquarters. Boom. After this sentence, the entire naval headquarters was shaken. Countless Marine soldiers all showed their jaw-dropping expressions, and their hearts were filled with turbulent waves, which could not be calmed down at all. The ancestor of the sea, Lule actually resurrected Sengoku Inspector General, Garp Vice Admiral, red-haired Shanks, Blackbeard to attack naval headquarters. What is he trying to do? What an incomprehensible lunatic. Kong clenched his fist and said with a solemn expression, Lule, the ancestor of the sea, looks like he is finally going to attack the world government. No, things are getting serious. Akainu clenched his fist and said solemnly, Blackbeard, red-haired Shanks, plus Garp and Sengoku, this is equivalent to the 4 emperors besieging naval headquarters. Really? So scary. Kizaru rubbed his eyes and said a little shocked, to resurrect the dead and be a tool person, this ancestor of the sea, Lule really has a good plan. It's about the rhythm of our Marine's perpetual death. Aramaki rubbed his stiff cheeks and said in a serious tone, judging from the breath just now, whether it is Blackbeard or red-haired Shanks, it seems that their strength has not weakened much after the resurrection, especially Shanks, whose arms are still intact. Yes, it could be more terrifying. Sengoku, Garp, you guys are actually being controlled by the great-great ancestor. Staff officer. He suppressed the urge to cry and muttered to himself, this great-great-great ancestor, Lule, what exactly is trying to do? Actually, at first seeing the resurrected Sengoku and Garp, Staff Officer Crane was still very excited, but, after hearing that it was being controlled by the ancestors of the sea, the excitement turned into fright. When she thought that Sengoku and Garp, who had served Marine for most of their lives, were going to attack naval headquarters, she felt uncomfortable for a while. The ancestor of the sea, Lule, just wanted to slap Marine in the face. As for the Dark Horse, Fujitora, Momoshiki and others didn't speak, but the chilling expression on their cheeks already showed everything. All Marines are ordered to evacuate naval headquarters quickly. Akainu gritted his teeth and quickly issued an order. Marine 3 Admiral Aramaki, Fujitora, Kizaru, and Momoshiki, the Dark Horse will meet the enemy with me. You are responsible for organizing the evacuation, Commander Crane. Great eruption. After saying this, Akainu was the first to launch an attack in anger. Since Lule, the ancestor of the sea, was resurrected, he has endured, and now it's okay, he was bullied to his head and shit. Whether it is bearable or unbearable, if you want to fight, then fight. The next moment, The huge magma fist erupted from midair like a meteorite, and smashed towards the pirate ship that Sengoku and others were riding on. In the face of Akainu's attack, Sengoku, who didn't want to fight back, changed his expression, and his body automatically turned into a golden Buddha statue. With a fist, he slammed into the magma fist that fell from the sky. Boom! A deafening roar resounded. The magma fist exploded in response, turning into countless magma and scattered on the sea. Do it. And this is like a fuse. Kong, Aramaki, Fujitora, Kizaru, and Momoshiki, the black horse's body flew out, and on the other side, Garp, red-haired Shanks, and Blackbeard started to move uncontrollably. War is imminent. Boom, boom, accompanied by a series of earth-shattering roars resounding. Countless energy waves erupted madly, and the seas near the New World Naval Headquarters set off stormy waves one after another, swept out in all directions, causing the sea area to tremble violently. And in the center of the battlefield, a war that can be called the highest level of the sea is breaking out. Akainu vs Sengoku, Kong vs Garp, Marine Green Bull and Dark Horse vs Blackbeard, one of the three admirals, Fujitora, Momoshiki vs Shanks. As for Kizaru, he roams the battlefield with his own speed. Look around. The battles in various battle circles are very fierce, and the various energy waves are raging continuously, and the violent impact produced can be described as dark and dark, the sun and the moon are dull. Boom! With a roar, the golden Buddha incarnation of Sengoku blasted countless magma fists one by one. Armament hockey was like no money, and the huge golden Buddha body was wrapped tightly. Akainu, after my resurrection, my strength is almost at its peak, with infinite armament hockey, and an immortal body. Seeing that Akainu couldn't attack for a long time, Sengoku couldn't help but reminded. Akainu's face was gloomy, his arms turned into magma arms, and he kept banging against the golden giant Buddha incarnated by Sengoku, saying, "Can't you control your body a little?" Sengoku didn't give up at all, and said helplessly, "The ancestor of the sea, Lule is too strong, we can't break free from his control at all, we can only control our body by him." It's really. Akainu scolded angrily, feeling as much aggrieved as he wanted. Now he is at his peak, but the resurrected Sengoku is also at his peak, causing him and Sengoku to explode each other, and neither can help each other. What's even more embarrassing is that he finally blew the arm of Sengoku's incarnation into a golden giant Buddha. In the blink of an eye, countless dust gathered and recovered again. What's the point of hitting a hammer? As for the other battle circles, the pinnacle Garp pressed the old Kong to death, and Kong, who kept punching punch after punch, retreated. Seeing that Commander Kong is at a disadvantage, Kizaru attacked Garp without hesitation. "Have you been kicked by the light?" Boom! A crackling sound rang out. Garp's right arm was kicked out alive by Kizaru, but unfortunately, the countless dust condensations were restored in the blink of an eye. "Have you ever been hit by my iron fist?" The next moment, Garp imitated the tone of Kizaru's words, and slammed his left fist, which was wrapped in armament hockey. Although already elementalized in advance, Kizaru was still hit by armament hockey, and the punch flew out and slammed into the naval headquarters fortress. Boom! A huge mushroom cloud rose up. "Kizaru, it was not what I said just now, but what the ancestors of the great ocean said." Garp said a little embarrassedly. "Just now I deliberately exposed flaws and exchanged injuries for injuries, but I didn't expect you to be fooled." Quote. With that said, Garp starts attacking Kong again. PFF'd. Hearing this sentence, Kizaru flew out of the ruins, almost vomited blood, relying on his immortality. Every attack has to be wounded for wounds, he is really too difficult. How can the resurrection ninjutsu of Lule, the ancestor of the sea, be so pervert? Kizaru, come and help me. Boom! Facing Garp's injury for injury pass, the old Kong was even more unbearable. Garp was blasted out with an iron fist and smashed into the fortress of naval headquarters, making a roaring sound. 8 feet Joan Tomo. Brush. Swish. Accompanied by the sound of breaking air, countless dazzling light bullets attacked Garp like a storm. However, in the face of such an attack, Garp did not take any evasion, and just stood there motionless, letting countless dazzling light bullets hit his body wrapped by armament hockey. "I can't fight anymore. See this scene." Kizaru couldn't help complaining. "I've seen shameless, I've never seen one as shameless as Garp." Relying on the advantage of his body after his resurrection, he completely ignored his attack. Sakazuki, let's withdraw. Seeing that Kizaru was restraining Garp, Kong crawled out of the rubble, wiped the blood from the corner of his mouth, and said, if we continue to fight, even if we can win, it will be a tragic victory, there is really no need. When it comes to this, Kong also added with a dignified expression, the naval headquarters is destroyed, we can still rebuild it, and if there are no people, Lule may be resurrected as a tool man. Of course, Kong didn't say a word, that is, he was already a little scared. He was old enough to just go to naval headquarters to convey the instructions of the 5 elders, but he didn't expect to encounter such a thing. He still has lofty political ambitions that have not been realized. Haven't gotten to the 5 elders yet, but don't want to die in naval headquarters. As long as he sits on the position of the 5 elders and gets the appreciation of Lord Yim, he should be able to restore the strength of the peak period like the current 5 elders. After hearing this, Akainu, who was fighting with Sengoku, suddenly turned gloomy. Withdraw. Voluntarily give up naval headquarters. If this is spread out, will Marine still have any face? Does he still have face as Marshal Marine? I'm afraid he will be ridiculed by the whole sea. If they don't withdraw, the stalemate won't do Marine any good. Akainu, get out. The giant Buddha incarnated by Sengoku sighed and said, it won't do Marine any good to fight again, let the world government deal with the headache, and let IM find a way. Withdraw. With a fluctuating expression on his face, Sakazuki gritted his teeth and roared loudly. Swish, swish. The voice did not fall. A sound of breaking through the air rang out. Kizaru, Kong, Fujitora, Green Bull, Momoshiki, Dark Horse, and Sakazuki all left the battlefield with great speed. See this scene. Blackbeard, red-haired Shanks, Sengoku, Garp flashed their bodies, and they all landed on naval headquarters, which was already ravaged and crisscrossed. Swish. Sengoku took the lead on a trip to the naval headquarters where supplies were stored. Because the evacuation was fast, the time was tight, and the place where Marine stored the materials was hidden, Marine did not remove the materials, which was cheaper. Sengoku, after carrying 3 boxes in a row, came out. Blackbeard, Redhead Shanks, and Garp begin their final assault on naval headquarters. Boom. After a few minutes, one after another roar sounded continuously. The naval headquarters of Marine New World disappeared into the sea alive, leaving only a rough sea in place. And watching this scene from a distance, the expressions of Akainu, Kizaru, Aramaki, Hema and others who were retreating were extremely cold and cold. Today, they were taught a lesson by the ancestors of the sea, Lule, their faces were swollen, and some valuable materials from naval headquarters must have been robbed. Resurrection, it can be predicted that the sea that was shaking again and again will be in chaos. The sea will completely enter a state of rampage. New World, BIGMOM waters. After the BIGMOM pirates left without hesitation. The Aokiji pirates took over most of the territory of the BIGMOM pirates, and a small part was occupied by Vinsmoke Reiju, IG, Caesar Kerrang and others from Germa 66. However, even if occupied, in fact, the Aokiji pirates and Germa 66 have no bottom in their hearts and are always on guard. After all, the BIGMOM pirate group went to Wano-kuni uncharacteristically for help, and if it really hugged the thigh of the ancestor of the sea, Lule, there would be some trouble. To put it mildly, in the face of Lule, the great ancestor of the sea, it would be a lie to say that you are not afraid. Even the 4 emperors level Aokiji pirates have no courage to face the great ancestor, Lule. Confrontation. Clap, clap, accompanied by the sound of being frozen. The Cake Island in the BIGMOM sea area and the surrounding sea area were completely frozen by a cold air, which virtually lowered the temperature of this sea area by several degrees. Boss Kuzan, it seems that the BIGMOM pirates don't plan to take their own territory. Looking at the frozen Cake Island, Giza's Badgers, who was standing on the deck, clenched his fists and said happily, now our Aokiji pirates have perfectly received the great power of Whitebeard pirates and BIGMOM pirates. Part of the territory has become the largest sphere of influence among the 4 emperors. Yes, with a long spear, Van Oka stretched and complimented with a smile. Under the leadership of Boss Kuzan, our Aokiji pirate ship will definitely become stronger and stronger. The only thing to pay attention to now is the ancestors of the sea. Shiryu was holding a cigar, spit out a few puffs of white smoke, and said with a heavy face, once the great ancestor decides to help the BIGMOM pirates, we must immediately withdraw from the BIGMOM waters. Quote. Single quote. 793, heard this sentence. Giza's Badgers, Van Oka, Abaro Pizarro, Lafitte and others, who were still a little excited at first, looked stiff, and they were in a bad mood all of a sudden. Although I don't want to admit it, but the fact is that the Aokiji pirates today are definitely not the opponents of the ancestors of the sea. After all, they are the peerless ruthless men who kill the 4 emperors like killing a dog. Did you run away? As for Kuzan, with his hands on the side of the boat, he looked at the frozen cake island, and there was a hint of loss in his eyes. He led the main force of the Aokiji pirates to come here because he wanted to destroy the BIGMOM pirates, so as not to go to the ancestors of the sea, Lule, but he did not expect the BIGMOM pirates to run faster than expected, which makes some people distressed. Well, let's get ready to evacuate. Kuzan seemed to have thought of something, showing a tired look. 3 years after another, he has become the 4 emperors, but Sengoku, who was connected with him, has already been killed. He is really too difficult. That's right, after the failure to compete for the marshal, Aokiji chose to secretly join the Naval Headquarters Secret Special Unit, SWORD, and quit Marine. After all, there are some things he can do without staying in Marine, and there are some things, only no longer it is Marine to see clearly. Moreover, having the identity of a pirate will make it more convenient to do things. Whether it is a pirate or a Marine has no effect on the justice he insists on. The plan was going well. Lule, the ancestor of the sea who had been dead for more than 40 years, was resurrected, disrupting everything. Quote. But, just as the officers of the Aokiji pirates were about to leave, Kuzan and Shiryu both stared at each other, as if they were perceiving something, and they all showed incredible expressions, because 2 extremely powerful and undisguised auras were heading towards the sea where Cake Island is located from a distance. Fly by. Even more baffling to Aokiji and Shiryu is that the breath is the breath of the dead Kaido of the Beasts and Charlotte Linlin. What's wrong? Aware of the abnormality of Kuzan's old Yamato Shiryu, Giza's Badgers, Van Oka, Abaro Pizarro, Lafitte and others showed puzzled expressions, and looked at Kuzan in the direction of Shiryu's eyes. I saw in the distance where the sea and the sky meet. Countless dark clouds are gathering, and wisps of thunder can still be seen faintly interweaving. As the dark clouds got closer and closer, a giant cyan dragon appeared in the dark clouds surrounded by thunder and lightning, and an old woman in a large pink dress stood on her back. No doubt, this is Kaido of the Beasts, known as the strongest creature, who has been defeated by King Luffy, and BIGMOM Charlotte Linlin, known as the Born Destroyer. After seeing all this clearly, whether it was Kuzan, Shiryu, Giza's Badgers, Van Oka, Abaro Pizarro, Lafitte and others, they all showed expressions of horror, only to feel the buzzing in their heads. Several of the cadres even rubbed their eyes, but found that they were not mistaken. In front of them are Kaido of the Beasts and Charlotte Linlin, one of the last 4 emperors. How is this possible? Haven't they been driven into the underground lava by Straw Hat Luffy? Incredible. Really incredible. The breath on Kaido and Charlotte Linlin is weird, it's supposed to be resurrected. Kuzan suppressed the throbbing in his heart and said in an unbelievable tone, if I guessed correctly, it should be the ancestors of the sea, Lule, who resurrected them. What? Revived Kaido and Charlotte Linlin? No. Impossible. Can people be resurrected when they die? The voice did not fall. There was an uproar from the deck. Many pirates of the Aokiji pirates kept sweating from their foreheads, showing expressions of awe and trembling. No way, no one thought that Lule, the ancestor of the sea, could be resurrected himself, even Kaido of the Beasts and Charlotte Linlin could be resurrected. Boom. After about 3 minutes, dark clouds covered the Cake Island, the dragon-shaped Kaido of the Beasts twisted his body in the interweaving of thunder and lightning, looked at the Aokiji pirates below, and said like thunder, Aokiji, I didn't expect to be Marine. You, Admiral, have become the 4 emperors. Who? Aokiji looked at Kaido of the Beasts and Charlotte Linlin in the sky, suppressed the shock in his heart, and said solemnly, I didn't expect you to be resurrected. Ha 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 ha. Kaido of the Beasts let out a thunderous laugh and said, isn't it normal for us to be resurrected? Ma, ma, ma. Charlotte Linlin grinned and said violently, Lord Lule is very powerful. After this time, after the resurrection of the old lady, even the eczema is gone. It's really cool. So, please get out of the BIGMOM waters for my mother immediately. Boom. When it comes to the last sentence, Charlotte Linlin's eyes showed a surging fighting intent, and a monstrous aura erupted from her body and swept the sea. What a mighty conqueror's hockey. With the outbreak of Charlotte Linlin, the pirates of Red Hair Pirates showed fear in their eyes, and some of the pirates on the deck with slightly weaker strength were shocked and their eyes turned white, and it seemed that they would fall into a coma at any time. Since we met, then I'll give you a greeting first. Seeing that Charlotte Linlin was arrogant, Kaido of the Beast slowly raised his head, accompanied by a terrifying energy fluctuation. A violent flame condensed in the dragon's mouth crazily. Oops, oops, quick, leave the pirate ship first and go to Cake Island. Facing the attack of Kaido of the Beasts, Kuzan and Shiryu quickly entered a fighting state, staring solemnly at Kaido and Charlotte Linlin in midair. That's right, at their level, with a little perception, you can roughly know what state the opponent's strength is in. Now Charlotte Linlin and Kaido of the Beasts, judging from the breath they burst out, are undoubtedly at their peak. In other words, facing the four emperors at their peak. Even Aokiji and Shiryu felt the pressure. What? Quickly withdraw to Cake Island. Hearing this sentence, the pirates of the Aokiji pirates had almost no hesitation, and quickly left the pirate ship and fled wildly towards the Cake Island. Heat breath. In midair, Kaido of the Beasts didn't care so much. After the brewing was almost over, he launched an attack directly towards Kuzan and Shiryu below. Boom. The monstrous dragon breath poured out towards Kuzan and Shiryu. An extremely terrifying energy shock wave and the roar of the burning air erupted, and the huge momentum seemed to destroy the world. Captain Kuzan, what should I do now? Facing the overwhelming heat, Shiryu had already thrown away the cigar in his mouth, holding the famous knife thunderstorm in his hand, and asked urgently. You're guarding Charlotte Linlin, Kaido is on my side. After Kuzan gritted his teeth slightly, he pressed his hands to the sky slightly, and the terrifying power of freezing swept out. Ice Age. Ice Shield. Click, click. This piece of air and the pirate ship were covered with ice and snow. Then, a layer of ice dozens of meters thick appeared above Aokiji and Shiryu, catching the heat from the explosion. Boom. A thunderous explosion resounded, and the heat breath hit the ice shield, making a sizzling sound, and countless white water vapors erupted, and an extremely terrifying heat shock wave erupted, causing the air to burst. Even this piece of sea that was originally frozen collapsed in an instant. From afar, the world seemed to be divided into two halves, with the heat wave on the top and the ice and snow below, just facing each other. 1 second, 3 seconds, 8 seconds. With the passage of time, the heat breath and the ice shield continued to carry out the most direct confrontation and explosion. Finally, after a minute, Kaido of the Beast stopped his heat attack and looked at Kuzan excitedly. Kuzan, one of the 3 former Marine Admirals, has progressed very quickly, especially for the development of frozen fruit, which seems to have reached an ultimate call. Seeing that Kaido of the Beasts had stopped attacking, Kuzan breathed a sigh of relief, no less horrified than Kaido of the Beasts. He can be absolutely sure. Kaido's strength after his resurrection is at its peak. Cool. The next moment, Kaido of the Beast screamed violently and said, Kuzan, your strength is not bad, I will come to play with you when I have time, after all, I am truly immortal now. Quote. Ma, ma, ma. Charlotte Linlin grinned and said excitedly, earning is false and seeing is true, now we are going to hang out in New World, let everyone know that the Emperor of the Sea is back. So, if you don't get out of the BIGMOM waters, prepare for the wrath from the predecessors of the 4 emperors. Swish. The voice did not fall. The blue dragon incarnated by Kaido of the Beasts flew away with a flick of his tail. For Kaido of the Beasts and Charlotte Linlin, who have just been resurrected, the most important thing to do is to take the time to show that they have been resurrected. Kaido and Aokiji started to tell Aokiji that even if we died once and resurrected, our strength is still the same, was at its peak. At the very least, they have to shake the New World. Wow. Gone. Kaido and Charlotte Linlin are gone. Seeing this scene, the Cake Island was already a mess, the pirates of the Aokiji pirates were already frightened, and their legs were weak, and they involuntarily made a sound of the rest of their lives. The sea is about to shake. Unbelievable eyes flashed in Kuzan's eyes, and he muttered to himself solemnly, "It's messed up, everything is messed up. What on earth does this great ancestor, Lule, want to do?" Shiryu wiped the cold sweat from the palm of his hand and said, "It's scary to be able to maintain the strength of the peak period after being resurrected. By the way, let me tell you another good news, Blackbeard, Garp, Sengoku, red-haired Shanks are all resurrected, and now naval headquarters should have been destroyed." Sudden, Kaido of the Beasts, who was far away, uttered another voice. After this sentence, the pirates of the Aokiji pirates such as Kuzan, Shiryu, Giza's Badgers, Van Oka, Abaro Pizarro, and Lafitte all felt their souls freeze, and flashes flashed in their minds. After a thought. This sea is going to be turned upside down. At the same time, as Kaido of the Beasts and Charlotte Linlin swagger around the New World, the whole New World started to riot. No one thought the dead Kaido of the Beasts and Charlotte Linlin are actually resurrected. Among them, Vinsmoke Reiju, IG, Caesar Current and others who were on the Chocolate Island, after witnessing Kaido and Charlotte Linlin flying over from the sky not far away, were even more frightened and withdrew from the BIGMOM waters overnight. However, when everyone has not recovered, the news of the world released newspapers to the whole sea, making not only the New World, but also the whole sea completely crazy and exploded. Shock. Ancestors of the Great Ocean. Lule uses godlike ninjutsu to resurrect Kaido of the Beasts, Charlotte Linlin, Blackbeard, Garp, Sengoku, red-haired Shanks. Terrible. After resurrection, Blackbeard, Garp, Sengoku, redhead Shanks team up to destroy naval headquarters in New World. Suffocated. After Marine's former headquarters, Marineford was destroyed, New World's headquarters was also destroyed. After a brief encounter between Kaido and Kuzan, the Aokiji pirates withdrew from the BIGMOM waters, and Kuzan, one of the four emperors, claimed that Kaido and Charlotte Linlin were at their peak. Invincible. Ancestors of the Great Ocean. Lule is not afraid of the Straw Hat Pirates, and he took the initiative to say that he would kick Monkey D. Luffy in one go. When the newspapers spread all over the place. When many people saw the newspaper, their first reaction was that the ancestors of the sea started to do things again. The second reaction was to widen his eyes and let out a groaning sound. He could resurrect the dead, maintain his peak strength, and destroy the naval headquarters. What a miracle! In an instant, even the numb people who have been continuously shocked by the ancestors of the sea were once again shocked, and their hearts could not calm down at all. The commoners are still like this, not to mention the world government, major countries, the Straw Hat Pirates, the Crusaders, the Red Hair Pirates, the Revolutionary Army and other forces. Invisibly, the sea is completely messed up, and it has entered an unprecedented era of rampage dominated by the ancestors of the sea. Holy Land Mariajoy. Inside the mighty hockey castle of the world government. A conference room on the top floor. The five elders sat there with their faces ashen, and no one spoke, which made the atmosphere extremely heavy. Originally, after learning from Lucci of the CPU that the Straw Hat Pirates had entered a rampant state, the five elders are looking forward to anything other than joy. Anyway, their world government and marine have entered a state of war, and they are on standby at any time. I wish the Straw Hat Pirates went to confront Lule, the ancestor of the sea. There is no chance to lose both, but as long as the Straw Hat Luffy is killed, the world government will never lose. Looking forward to it. Things are going as expected. The Straw Hat Pirates attacked Wano-kuni aggressively. However, at such a critical moment of watching the play, a shocking news came. The naval headquarters in New World was destroyed. It was none other than the dead red-haired Shanks, Blackbeard, Garp, Sengoku. Just after receiving Sakazuki's report, the five elders thought that Marshal Marine, Sakazuki was playing a prank. How could the dead be resurrected, and joined hands to destroy the naval headquarters? Wasn't it a joke? But when it was confirmed again and again, it was learned that everything had really happened, and the newspaper of the news of the world was also published. Not only the red-haired Shanks, Blackbeard, Garp, Sengoku were resurrected, but also Kaido of the Beasts and Charlotte Linlin is all resurrected. Boom. In an instant, the five elders who knew the truth showed extremely unbelievable expressions. In addition to being shocked, they felt that their souls were shaking slightly. What's the matter? Not only can the dead be resurrected, but their strength can also remain at their peak, and they have their own consciousness, but their bodies are controlled by the ancestor of the sea, Lule. How is this possible? But the fact happened, the ancestor of the sea, Lule did it. The five elders really don't want to accept this. Originally, the ancestor of the sea, Lule's strength was enough to pervert. Now, he can keep resurrecting the dead powerhouses. How can we play? Can't play anymore. What made the five elders feel aggrieved and wanted to vomit blood was, after Lule, the ancestor of the sea, was resurrected, no matter what he did, the world government would endure it and endure it again and again. As a result, the ancestors of the sea were good. After resurrecting the red-haired Shanks, Blackbeard, Garp, and Sengoku, the first thing was to let this force comparable to the four emperors destroy the naval headquarters of the New World. This is not a proper way to fight Marine in the face of the world government. Well now, the pressure has come to the world government again, which made the five elders want to cry. Now the whole sea has gone wild. After revealing that he can resurrect dead people, the whole sea is already in chaos. Now all forces have acquiesced. The sea has perfectly transitioned from the era of the great pirate to the era of the great ancestor of the sea, Lule. What should our world government do? I do not know how long it has been. The five elders who were in silence only said one sentence, and I made a voice that suppressed grievance and anger one after another. For them, the current situation is not only aggravating the loss of control, but also has entered an era of rampage dominated by the ancestors of the sea, which invisibly further reduced the influence of the world government on the sea. We have to do it. Boom. With the sound of a knock on the table, the bald-headed five elders said with a gloomy expression, I can't bear it anymore, no need to bear it anymore, this great ancestor of the sea, Lule is too deceiving, so he concentrated his efforts to kill it. That's right. Another mustache five elders clenched his fists and said with gritted teeth, Master Yimu has put us into a state of combat readiness, we should be able to do it. Humph. The blonde five elders snorted coldly and said, if you endure any longer, you will really become a tortoise. Oh, you should calm down for a while. At this time, the five elders with the highest status, who had not spoken, sighed and said, it has already happened, even if we are angry to the ultimate level, we have to bear it for a while, and cannot make an assertion. Still endure. We really don't want to endure. Let's do it. Don't let the ancestors of the sea, Lule act recklessly. Laugh. Sudden. While the other five elders were still complaining, a wave of spatial fluctuations occurred, and Yimu, who had red pupils, a crown with 4 towering spikes, and a black cloak, appeared in the conference room with a horrified expression. No doubt, after learning that Kaido of the Beasts and others had been resurrected by the great ancestors of the sea, was also frightened. The current stage of the sea is really getting more and more outrageous, even if the ancestors of the sea resurrected themselves, and now even the dead can be resurrected, and Yimu, who has always been in the heart, has an unprecedented sense of crisis and fear. I can't keep calm anymore. Especially for the ninjutsu that revives the dead, also has the ultimate desire and greed in his heart. Once she can get this ninjutsu, doesn't it mean that many of the world government's powerhouses who have died long ago can be resurrected? Including some super top powerhouses who formed the world government more than 800 years ago. The more I think, the more excited, the more I think, the more excited. Invisibly, Im's heart that had not fluctuated for more than 800 years began to fluctuate violently, and she no longer wanted to bear it. There is nothing to say, the ancestor of the sea, Lule, she is determined, no one will do it, this time, she will dig out all the secrets of Lule, even if it is to expose all the cards of the world government ruling the sea come out, do whatever it takes. Lord I am, facing the elusive Imam-sama. The 5 elders, who were still arguing, did not dare to hesitate, and knelt on the ground in no particular order. Among them, the 5 elders, who had just spoken more excitedly, had cold sweats on their foreheads. It was obvious that some were afraid of Lord Yimu. Skull. Okay, you don't have to be angry and complain. Bring CP0's high-end combat power and Seraph, go to meet Marine, and then wait for my order. Yimu suppressed the impulse in his heart and said indifferently, this time, let the whole Dahai see how terrible the world government, which has ruled Dahai for more than 800 years, is full of firepower. Understood. Yes, Lord I am. Okay, we'll go covertly to meet Marine right away. Lord we will not disappoint you. Hearing this sentence, the 5 elders, who were still afraid of punishment at first, relaxed in their hearts, their cheeks showed surprises, and they made a sound of incomparable excitement. How many years? They finally had a chance to make a move. Don't worry about Vegapunk for the time being. The next moment, thought for a moment, and then said slowly, let the CPO focus on the Straw Hat Pirates. I don't think Straw Hat Luffy will die so easily. After all, Joey Boy is not a fuel saver. The lights. Hearing about Joey Boy, the 5 elders wisely didn't ask any more questions and nodded hastily. Well, you can act first. Laugh. After saying this, immediately disappeared into the conference room with a wave of space fluctuations. We can finally leave Mariajoy. After Lord Yimu left, the 5 elders all stood up, with undisguised fighting intent and coldness in their eyes. World government's forbearance time is over. It's time to get real. At the same time, Eggtip Island in the future kingdom. The central area, a laboratory full of sci-fi futuristic styles. The 6 avatars of Vegapunk, Desire, Koku, Violence, Atlas, Knowledge, Pythagoras, Thinking, Edison, Evil, Lilith, and Jung, Shaka are unprecedentedly gathered in together. The world government has already killed our body. There was a coldness in Kaku's eyes, and he said solemnly, CPOs Lucci, Stussy, Kaku chose to leave after the Straw Hat Pirates left for some reason. Otherwise, we will inevitably have a fierce battle. Speaking of which, Koku is obviously a little unhappy and angry. Their relationship with the world government is just an employment relationship. Now that Seraph has researched it, the world government just wants to kill the donkey and eat the truth. What a disgusting thing. More than a fierce battle, we may die. Atlas thought for a while before saying with a serious face, after entering the 5th gear, Luffy, one of the 4 Emperor's Straw Hats, is really terrifying. Hockey alone makes many high-tech machines on Eggtip Island. If it is damaged, once the CPU chooses to do it at that time, the consequences will be disastrous. No matter how powerful Straw Hat Luffy is, there is definitely no great ancestor of the sea, Lule pervert. Edison showed a disdainful expression, and said in a highly respected tone, using ninjutsu to bring the dead back to life is truly unheard of and unseen. It's terrifying. If Lule, the ancestor of the sea, was a scientist, he would definitely become a scientist. A very good scientist. It's a little scary indeed. Shaka nodded, with adoring eyes flashing in his eyes, and said, although our body has seen the life design diagram, but compared with the ninjutsu of the ancestors of the sea, which touches the profound meaning of the soul, may be slightly inferior. That's true. Lilith folded her hands on her chest, and said with a sense of sigh, with the ancestors of the sea, Lule resurrecting the red-haired Shanks and others, the sea has entered the era of ancestors. Leave that aside, what should we do now? After hearing these words, Pythagoras rubbed his head and said helplessly, after Eggtip Island was destroyed by Straw Hat Luffy, our research funding is again insufficient. Quiet. Speaking of lack of funds, Koku, Atlas, Edison, Lilith, and Shaka all became troubled. Their research is very expensive. In the past, the world government was willing to take advantage of it for the sake of researching Seraph. Now the relationship with the world government is obviously not right. Their research funding is once again stretched thin. It's so frustrating. Or, are we looking for someone to take advantage of? After a few seconds, Lilith's eyes lit up and she said, the Great Ocean is about to fall into turmoil, and there will be a battle between the ancestors of the Great Ocean, the world government, and the Straw Hat Pirates. We will go to whoever wins and use some of our latest research results in exchange for cooperation. Even if the world government wins, do you still go? Eddie said in a pointed way. Sure. Lilith shrugged helplessly, and said bitterly, if the world government wins, it will prove that the world government's strength is not as simple as imagined. Apart from choosing cooperation again, do we still have room for bargaining? Let's see who has the last laugh in this great turmoil. Agree. New World. On a calm sea, the Sunny of the Straw Hat Pirates is facing off against the Red Force of the Red Hair Pirates. On the deck of the Sunny, the Straw Hat Luffy stared blankly at Yuta on the Red Force deck. Without speaking, his eyes were filled with undisguised anger and coldness. He wants revenge. He is going to Wano Kuni to seek revenge for Lule, the most sinful ancestor of the sea. Since East Blue, the Straw Hat Luffy has never been so angry and irritable as he is today. The actions of that great ancestor, Lule, have successfully touched his bottom line and scales, angering him. Especially when I think of the Empress who has a good relationship with me on the pirate ship of the ancestors of the sea. My grandfather was killed, the red-haired Shanks was killed, the Dragon Palace Kingdom changed hands, Shirahoshi was also kidnapped, plus Peach was also tortured, and Yamato didn't seem to answer his phone calls. A series of things. In addition to heartache, Straw Hat Luffy is anger, uncontrollable anger. Therefore, even if he knew that the ancestor of the sea, Lule, was very strong, very pervert and terrifying, he did not have any fear or hesitation. After leaving Egg Point Island, he flew towards Wano Kuni at a very fast speed. However, halfway through, the pirate ship of the Straw Hat Pirates was intercepted by Red Hair Pirates. Luffy, you really can't go to Wano Kuni. Yuta glanced at Luffy, who no longer had any smile, and said with a heavy tone, the ancestors of the sea are in full swing, you can only die when you go. I'm not afraid. After hearing this, Luffy clenched his fist and said coldly, Sister Yuta, there are some things that must be done. I am the man who wants to be the Pirate King. How can I shrink back and be afraid? Even if I die, I will let the ancestors pay the price. Don't you want to avenge Shanks? After saying this, seems to be out of control. Luffy's body burst out with an undisguised aura of coercion. Of course I want to. Yuta's beautiful eyes flashed a ray of pain, letting the sea breeze pass over his cheeks, and said bitterly, but I don't want to watch you go to death, listening to my sister's advice, you are really fighting now. But the ancestors of the sea, Lule, let's find a place first and take a long-term plan. Rest assured, I will win. Luffy took a deep breath and said in a dazed manner, I will definitely win, I will definitely. In the face of Luffy who is like two people compared to before. Yuta was a little dazed, and felt a little strange for the first time, that positive and optimistic, who attaches great importance to partners and friends, does not kill for the pursuit of wealth, but enjoys the adventure and freedom of being a pirate. Luffy boy Luffy, where did it go? Could it be that hatred can really make people lose their minds and go completely crazy? Can't figure it out. Yuta has something to think about. Out of desperation, Yuta could only look at Nami, Robin, Zoro, Sanji and others with a helpless look, and wanted these Luffy's partners and friends to persuade Luffy not to be so impulsive and be carried away by hatred. It's a pity. Nami, Robin, Zoro, Sanji and others all showed expressions of helplessness. Even Chopper keeps his head down. Actually, after leaving Egg Tip Island angrily, Nami, Robin, Zoro, Sanji and others also realized that they couldn't go to Wano Kuni so rashly, otherwise the revenge has not been reported, and the Straw Hat Pirates may even be destroyed by the ancestor of the sea, Lule. He tried to dissuade Luffy, let him calm down a little, plan well first, and then take action. But he was rejected by Luffy without emotion. Anyway, no matter who discouraged him, Luffy did not show the slightest smile. He was very violent and ruthless. Invisibly, Nami, Robin, Zoro, Sanji and others felt that Luffy seemed to have changed. One person. Since I can't persuade, the Straw Hat Pirates can only bite the bullet and go to Wano Kuni. In my heart, I can only expect a miracle to happen, just like defeating the Invincible Beasts Pirates, defeating the ancestor of the sea, Lule. Let's go. Seeing that Yuta was no longer speaking, Luffy crossed his arms and said solemnly, we continue to set off for Wano Kuni. A look of resoluteness flashed across Yuta's pretty face, and she scolded angrily, saying, if you want to go, then I will go with you, it's a big deal to die together. Boo, boo, the voice just fell. The phone bug on Yuta's waist suddenly rang. Yuta frowned and connected the phone bug. Yuta, have you intercepted the Straw Hat Pirates? The phone bug, from Beckman's horrified voice. Intercepted, Yuta said in a disappointed tone, but Luffy couldn't listen to the persuasion at all, and was still very determined to go to Wano Kuni. You stand next to Luffy, I have a big thing to tell you. Beckman said in an unbelievable tone, because of the ancestor of the sea, Lule, now the sea has completely run away. What? Swish. With a cracking sound, knowing the urgency of the matter, Yuta stood on the deck of the Sunny in a flash and stood beside Luffy. To this, Luffy's expression still didn't change. There is a kind of meaning that no matter what, I want to take revenge. Yuta, Luffy, you all listen to me. On the other end of the phone bug, Beckman took a deep breath and said, I just received a shocking news. Lule, Captain Redhead, Blackbeard, Garp, Sengoku, Kaido of the Beasts, Charlotte Linlin all resurrected. The naval headquarters of the New World has been destroyed by Captain Redhead, Blackbeard, Garp, Sengoku. Kaido of the Beasts also fought Kuzan. It is said that after the resurrection, Garp, Sengoku and others have their bodies controlled by Lule. Their strength is at a peak, and even if their bodies are severely injured, they can restore their original immortality. Now the entire sea has exploded, and the major powers have tacitly agreed that the sea has entered the era of the ancestors of the sea. After saying this, Beckman's tone was distinctly vibrato. No way, he didn't even think. I stayed at the base camp of Red Hair Pirates, and I actually received such a shocking news. Therefore, without any hesitation, he called Yuta's phone bug and notified her immediately. If the Straw Hat Pirates were intercepted, he would also notify Luffy by the way. It's not too late to watch. The other side. Quiet. Hear Beckman's voice. There was a moment of silence on the deck. Even Luffy, who was in a state of hatred, showed a look of surprise. Not to mention the other people, their cheeks were already full of disbelief and extreme astonishment, and their hearts were like overturned rivers and seas, and they couldn't calm down at all. What's the situation? The red-haired Shanks, Blackbeard, Garp, and Sengoku who were killed by the ancestors of the sea were all resurrected, and they still have the strength of their peak. Such an unexpected thing makes everyone can't believe it at all, but listening to Beckman's tone, it doesn't seem like a joke, it means that everything is true. Ancestors of the sea, Lule really has the ability to resurrect the dead. I know you don't believe it, but that's the truth. If you pass by the commercial island, you can read the newspaper. The phone bug, seemingly aware that Luffy and the others were in shock, Beckman added meaningfully, Luffy, if you really want revenge, you have to be well prepared instead of rashly going to Wano Kuni, sent to death. If the resurrected Garp and the red-haired Shanks see you swept away by anger and take the initiative to die, I'm afraid it will not be more disappointing and painful. So, you have to prove yourself. Boom. After this sentence, there was a loud bang in Luffy's mind, and his body trembled a few times. The great-grandfather actually resurrected Grandpa Garp and the red-haired Shanks, and when he thought of the great-great-grandfather, Lule controlling his grandfather and the red-haired Shanks, Luffy's anger rose to full value. Must not let them down. They may also expect me to defeat the ancestors of the sea. Wait a minute, the power of the Straw Hat Pirates is too weak. But you can form a Super Straw Hat Alliance, concentrate the forces that you can unite, and then take revenge. Wait a minute, the power of the Straw Hat Pirates is too weak. But you can form a Super Straw Hat Alliance, concentrate the strength you can unite, and then go for revenge. Thinking of this, the eyes of Luffy, who was still in anger, lit up, and his heart suddenly became clear. Since East Blue has risen, he has many friends. Now the ancestor of the sea, Lule is so unscrupulous and arrogant. Ultimately, it has become the target of public criticism. Unity is strength. As long as I can stand up and raise my arms, standing on the commanding heights of justice, you can definitely get a response from all parties. At that time, if we go to Wano Kuni to fight Lule, the ancestor of the sea, the winning rate will definitely increase greatly. At the same time, is this too scary? What kind of monster is Lule, the ancestor of the sea, who can resurrect the dead? It's unbelievable. No, absolutely can't go to Wano Kuni, the ancestor of the sea. Lule's strength is very pervert, and now he can revive so many strong people. It's completely impossible to fight. When Straw Hat Luffy fell into deep thought, Nami, Robin, Zoro, Sanji, Jinbei and others involuntarily made a horrified voice after the initial shock and disbelief. Obviously, they never thought the ancestor of the sea, Lule, actually mastered the secret technique of resurrecting the dead. If they don't know about this, they still have hope in their hearts that a miracle will happen. Now, there's another miracle of the hammer. Resurrected Redhead Shanks, Blackbeard, Garp, Sengoku, Kaido of the Beasts, Charlotte Linlin can kill the Straw Hat Pirates. Can't go to Wano Kuni. Never go to Wano Kuni. Egg to touch stone. For a time, Nami, Robin, Zoro, Sanji, Jinbei and others all looked at each other, and they all reached a tacit understanding with each other. They must not let Luffy be dazzled by anger, sent to death. Robin's heart is actually the most complicated and broken. She never thought that the man who created a blank year of history would be so reckless after resurrection. If she had known earlier, she should have focused on studying the blank one-year history, so that she might have learned a little about the weakness of Lule, the ancestor of the sea. It's good now, in the face of true strength. What is the use of studying more historical texts? Papa Shanks has been resurrected. Yuta also gradually came back to his senses, and clenched his fists in anger. A ray of tears could not help overflowing in his eyes. No matter what, she won't let Dad down. Luffy, she's been intercepted, and it's not easy for anyone to come. Well, in that case, we won't go to Wano Kuni for the time being. However, just at this time, Luffy, who was almost crazy just now, had cold eyes slightly, took a deep breath, and said unexpectedly, "It's definitely difficult for us to fight the current ancestor of the sea, Lule, so I decided to build a straw hat. The big alliance, uniting the forces of all parties, to deal with the ancestors of the sea." What, Luffy, you mean to form a major league? If our Straw Hat Pirates take the initiative to stand up, maybe we can really unite some forces and jointly deal with the ancestor of the sea, Lule. Before they finished speaking, Nami, Robin, Zoro, Sanji, Jinbei and others couldn't help but stun for a while, as if they had thought of something. They all showed a thoughtful expression. They knew exactly what Luffy meant. That is to use the influence of the Straw Hat Pirates in the sea and some personal connections to form a big alliance against the ancestors of the sea. This is undoubtedly much higher than the success rate of the Straw Hat Pirates going to Wano Kuni alone to face the ancestors of the sea. Among them, there is a ray of light in Yuta's eyes, and forming a Straw Hat League may be really big, chance to win. Alas, facing the prosperous BJDG ancestor of the sea, Lule, this may be the best choice. On the other end of the phone bug, Beckman pondered for a moment before sighing. You guys come back quickly. Next, it's time for us to show our swords. It is good. Luffy and Yuta nodded in no particular order, resolute expressions flashing across their faces. This time, they will also shake the sea. Start a super war bigger than the Summit War. The next day, when the sea is still in the shock of the red-haired Shanks, Blackbeard and others being resurrected, the Straw Hat Pirates of the Four Emperors class and the Red Hair Pirates jointly released a statement that made the whole sea boil. The approximate content is, the ancestor of the sea, Lule, after his resurrection, recklessly did whatever he wanted with his powerful strength, without any bottom line. He also resurrected some dead powerhouses, wantonly trampling on their dignity, all kinds of extremely bad behavior. The sea is turbulent, and countless civilians are frightened. The whole sea can be described as a bitter ancestor for a long time. Based on this, the Straw Hat Pirates and Red Hair Pirates will form a Straw Hat Alliance. All forces are invited to join in to fight the ancestors of the sea, Lule. Boom. As soon as the statement came out, the sea, which was still in a state of vibration, exploded in an instant. Because, no one thought, after the sea has entered the era of the ancestor of the sea, Lule. The Straw Hat Pirates did not go to Wano Kuni, but took the initiative to speak up, to form a big alliance of Straw Hats to fight the ancestor of the sea, Lule. This is the rhythm of going to the end with Lule, the ancestor of the sea. What is even more terrifying is that this statement has indeed touched many underground dark forces and the pain points of the major pirate groups. In the face of the unscrupulous Lule, everyone dared to be angry and did not dare to speak. Patiently. Now with the Straw Hat Pirates and Red Hair Pirates leading the way. As a result, some forces who were afraid of the great strength of Lule, the ancestor of the sea, began to become active in their hearts. After all, the ancestors of the sea, Lule can do whatever they want, and will not scruple and care about anyone, especially after entering the era of the ancestors of the sea. Lule has vaguely become the ancestor standing on the heads of the major forces, not only did not dare to provoke, but also be careful, for fear that the ancestors of the sea would be unhappy and unreasonably kill the quartet. Therefore, in this situation, countless underground dark forces on the sea, major pirate groups, various countries, etc., have begun to pay attention to the Straw Hat Alliance, wanting to see which forces will join first. For a time, the Straw Hat Pirates and Red Hair Pirates became the focus of the entire sea. New World, the Cross Guild of one of the 4 Emperor's regiments. In the conference room, Hawkeye Mahawk, Crocodile, Buggy, Mr. One Daz Bonus, Mr. Galdino and others all gathered together solemnly. Now there are no false 4 emperors, real 4 emperors, because, after entering the era of the great ancestor Lule, especially after the resurrection of Sengoku, Garp, Red-Haired Shanks, and Blackbeard, the 4 emperors have long since disappeared. There is a sense of oppression at the beginning. What 4 emperors rule the sea, and the heaven and earth surrender, not to mention, in front of the ancestors of the sea, it is a big joke, words. I really didn't expect that after the resurrection, the ancestors of the sea would be so pervert and actually resurrect Blackbeard, Red-Haired Shanks, Sengoku, Garp and others. Crocodile took a sigh of relief and said solemnly, with the strength of Wano Kuni today, and without the world government making a sound, Lule, the ancestor of the sea, has become the true uncrowned king of the sea. Abaj. A bitter look flashed in Mahawk's sharp eyes, and he sighed, I really don't know how the resurrected redhead feels. Before his death, he was the emperor who reigned over the sea, but after being resurrected, he became a physically unaffected person. The controlled puppet, this huge gap, perhaps suffering every moment. It must be hard for the redheads, but the situation for our cross unions is also very difficult. Hearing these words, Buggy said extremely depressed. As Marine becomes more and more sloppy and wicked, and the ancestors of the sea become more powerful and domineering, our trade union's business of offering bounties to Marine can no longer be carried out. All right. In fact, even Buggy didn't think of it. The hidden boss of the world government IM and the ancestor of the sea Lule fought each other in the air, but their cross-union suffered and their business could not be carried out at all. Those pirates are now frightened by the power of the ancestors of the sea, and they are also afraid of taking action against Marine. This, a series of chain reactions, invisibly making the just-established cross-trade union on the verge of bankruptcy again. Wait a minute, if it closes down, then am I free? Suddenly, Buggy reacted with hindsight. On the surface, he was calm, but inside he figured it out all of a sudden, and he was happy. He had already had enough of Mahawk and Crocodile. If the cross society went bankrupt, is not a bad thing either. As for Mr. One Daz Bonus, Mr. Galdino, and others, listening to these words, and thinking of what happened in the sea recently, they all lowered their heads cautiously, even in the air. Not even breathing. They did not dare to participate in the discussion, lest the city gate catch fire and bring disaster to Chiyu, which would be an unwarranted disaster. Or, let's answer Straw Hat Luffy's call. At this time, the eagle-eyed Mahawk took a deep breath, seemed to have made a decision, and said in a firm tone, the ancestor of the sea, Lule is too unscrupulous, he doesn't put anyone in his eyes, it is better to take the initiative. Quote. Call. Crocodile exhaled a puff of white smoke, his eyes fluctuated in the smoke, and finally after a moment of indifference, he nodded and said coldly, whether it is the world government, or the ancestor of the sea, Lule, we can't provoke the Crusaders. From now on, join the Straw Hat League, at least have the ability to resist. Then it's decided. Neither Hawkeye Mahawk nor Crocodile asked for the opinions of Buggy and the others, and they simply settled the plan to join the Straw Hat Major League. Yeah. As for the dialogue between the two, Buggy, who was still dreaming about the dissolution of the Cross Union, was stunned. There was no expression on the surface, but his heart was sad to ultimate. Did you make a mistake? He really doesn't want to join some shitty Straw Hat League, and he doesn't even want to face the ancestors of the sea, Lule. But, because of Mahawk and Crocodile, Buggy didn't show it, but instead said actively, then I will announce to the public that the Crusaders will respond to the call of the Straw Hat Pirates and will join the Straw Hat League. Okay. Hawkeye Mahawk and Crocodile nodded in unison. There was no fear on their cheeks, but a little excitement. They all knew very well that once this statement was issued, the Cross Union would blatantly choose to stand in the Straw Hat Pirates and stand in opposition to Lule, the ancestor of the sea. But, so what? The way is different, and they are different. As the famous big pirates, will they be afraid? Not afraid. Even if the strength of the ancestors of the sea is very strong, they will be done. New World. A calm sea. The polar diver is sailing at a constant speed on the sea. Boss, what should we do now? The Straw Hat Pirates team up with Red Hair Pirates to form a Straw Hat alliance against the Great Ocean's ancestor, Lule. I really didn't expect that Lule, the ancestor of the sea, could actually resurrect the dead, and ordered Blackbeard, Redhead, Garp, and Sengoku to destroy naval headquarters. A series of operations made the scalp tingle. On the deck, the pirates of the Heart Pirates looked at the newspapers in their hands. Their cheeks were full of shock and disbelief, and some weaker people even had cold sweats on their foreheads. Ah, listen to these words. Trafalgar Law, who was leaning on the side of the ship, showed a troubled expression. It's only the last step away from the big secret treasure, but so many big things have happened. The ancestor of the sea, Lule, is really too hateful. When I think of the ancestor of the sea, Lule, who has the ninjutsu of resurrecting the dead, and the style of doing whatever he wants, Trafalgar Law's heart is trembling. How can such a super pervert appear in the sea? Luffy, you owe me another favor. It didn't take long for Trafalgar Law's eyes to flash a ray of perseverance, and he simply ordered, return at full speed. We respond to Straw Hat Luffy's call and join the Straw Hat League. Yes, the pirates of the Heart Pirates were stunned for a moment, then nodded in no particular order. Nothing to be surprised about. With the steely relationship of old Yamato Luffy, it is normal to respond to the call of the Straw Hat Pirates. The only pity is that the time to find the big treasure has to be delayed again. And in another sea, the Vegapunk is at sea. Ha ha ha, Redhead Shanks, you have today too. I was killed by Lule, the ancestor of the sea, and then resurrected as a puppet of a tool man. Thinking about it is a bit funny, right? Accompanied by a sound of laughter. An undisguised sarcastic expression appeared on Kid's cheeks. But, as the smile fades away, Kid clenched his fists. The expression on his cheek became hesitant. I'm really happy that you killed the red-haired Shanks and then brought him back to life to play with him. A cold look flashed in Kid's eyes, and he muttered to himself, but, you should never mess with the Straw Hat Pirates. I'm sorry. Now Straw Hat Luffy raises his arms. IA response is required. Thinking of this, Kid gestured with his right hand and ordered, let's go back, go to the Straw Hat Pirates, and join the Straw Hat League. Yes, Captain Kid. A pirate from the Kid Pirates responded loudly. The next day, under the spotlight, Buggy, one of the current 4 emperors, directly announced that the Cross Guild will respond to the call of the Straw Hat Pirates and the Red Hair Pirates to join the Straw Hat League. Boom. As soon as the news came out, the sea shook violently again. No one thought. The first to respond was the 4 emperors level power Cross Guild. The second one to make a statement was the Aokiji Pirates, one of the 4 emperors' pirates, who also announced to join the Straw Hat Alliance. Immediately afterwards, the Heart Pirates and the Kid Pirates also issued a statement saying that they would join the Straw Hat Alliance and the Straw Hat Pirates to advance and retreat together. As soon as these 3 statements came out, it was like a fuse, causing a series of chain reactions. As a result, the sea has been continuously announced to join the Straw Hat League, such as, the former deputy captain of the Roger Pirates, known as the One Piece Right Wrist, Pluton Rayleigh, the King of Lone Sharks Feld, the Sea King Umid, Big Hand Undertaker, Picro, etc., seem to have reached some kind of tacit agreement and announced to join the Straw Hat League. Besides, there are also some countries that secretly provided a large amount of materials to the Straw Hat League because the world government did not issue a statement. In addition, the Bardo Club of the Straw Hat Big Fleet, the Junmei Pirates, the 8 Treasures Marine Corps, the Edio Pirates, the Dantata Pirates, the New Giants Pirates, and the Hoda Maria Big Fleet are also in succession. Response. For a time, the Straw Hat League is the most popular in the sea and has become the focus of the entire sea. New World, Marine G2 Headquarters. That's right. After Marine G1 Headquarters was destroyed by Garp, Sengoku, Blackbeard, Red-Haired Shanks, Marshall, Sakazuki chose Marine G2 branch as the new naval headquarters. Maybe it's too late. Compared with the destroyed Marine G1, the Marine G2 headquarters is much simpler and in poorer conditions. At this time, inside a conference room at the top of the fortress, the five elders, the Army Commander Kong, the Marines Marshal Sakazuki, the 3 Admiral Green Bull, Kizaru, Fujitora, the Dark Horse of the Criminal Investigation Bureau, the Crane staff, and the 6 chiefs of the CPO all gathered together. Maybe no one speaks. The atmosphere in the conference room was extremely depressing. In particular, the expressions of the Marine executives headed by Sakazuki were almost gloomy. Obviously, after Marine G1 headquarters was destroyed, their hearts were extremely unhappy and uncomfortable, and they have not calmed down until now. This time the Marine G1 headquarters was destroyed. I don't blame you, but the ancestors of the sea, Lule, for playing cards that are too unreasonable. Seemingly aware of the wrong mood of the Marine executives, the bald five elders said with a serious look. Your choice to abandon the Marine G1 headquarters is the right choice. Even if it's the right choice, I can't stand it anymore. Boom. The voice did not fall. Sakazuki, who has always been gloomy, slammed the table and said angrily, the ancestor of the sea, Lule is really deceiving people too much, we Marine and him will never die. When it comes to this, there seems to be some gaffe, a majestic heat wave poured out of Sakazuki's body. But, there are some high-end combat forces present. So, I didn't feel anything, only Kong smiled with empathy. He knew very well what exactly Akainu was angry about. After taking the position of marshal, he had no other achievements, so he changed 2 naval headquarters and killed 3 high-end combat powers. Nothing can be described as a perfect fit. Sakazuki, we understand your mood, please calm down first. Feeling this heat wave, the bearded 5 elders frowned and said, this time we are here at naval headquarters to make final preparations. Yup. The blonde 5 elders stretched and then gave a slow sigh. We haven't done it for almost 100 years, and after so long, it's really not easy to wait for someone worthy of our shot. You haven't touched it for hundreds of years. Upon hearing this, everyone in the meeting couldn't help but raise their brows. After all, if they haven't done anything for 100 years, doesn't that mean that the 5 elders are at least 100 years old, and their strength can still maintain their peak? You don't have to doubt, we have indeed lived for hundreds of years. The blonde 5 elders looked straight and said in a tone full of admiration, everything is given by Lord Byam. Quote. Related to world government's hidden boss, Lord I am. After hearing this sentence, everyone in the conference room showed a sudden realization, and the doubts in their hearts disappeared. After all, the mysterious and unpredictable Lord Yimu destroys a country with a single move. Her ability and strength are beyond doubt. Okay, let's wrap up the story about the destruction of naval headquarters, and now let's talk about the Straw Hats. At this time, the highest-ranking 5 elders who had never spoken picked up a piece of information in his hand, threw it on the table, and said, the Straw Hat Alliance is absorbing the Cross Guild, the Aokiji Pirates, the Kid Pirates, the Group, the Heart Pirates. After that, it has become a super huge organization. Right now, the Straw Hat League is the best in the ocean. After saying this, the 5 elders with the highest status also paused and said, it shouldn't be long before the Straw Hats will launch an attack on Wano-kuni. It's scary. Hearing this sentence, Kizaru said with a crooked mouth, the Straw Hat League is going to start a battle that will affect the entire sea. The Straw Hat Major League is very strong on paper, but I don't know if it can cause a little trouble to Wano-kuni. After Dark Horse took a cup of tea and took a sip, he said solemnly, once we can lose both, it will be very beneficial to us. Quote, I find it difficult, no one knows the true strength of the ancestors of the sea. Fujitora hesitated, then added, what if the great-great ancestor, Lule not only resurrects Blackbeard, Redhead Shanks, Sengoku, Garp, Kaido of the Beasts, Charlotte Linlin? Impossible. A CPO chief wearing a cat face mask said in a cold tone, this kind of ninjutsu to resurrect the dead should have some kind of limit. If it can be resurrected infinitely, wouldn't the sea be in chaos? Hee, now the sea is in chaos. The green cow showed a disdainful smile and said in a meaningful way, it may not be possible for other people, but I think it is really possible for Lule, the ancestor of the sea, to be able to perform infinitely the kind of resurrection of the dead, of ninjutsu. Green cow, what do you mean? The chief CPO wearing a cat face mask was immediately upset. What can I mean? Green Bull shrugged indifferently, and said, it's just telling the truth. If you're not convinced, you can go to Wano-kuni and ask the ancestors of the sea in person. Quote. Okay, tell me a little less. Just when the chief CPO wearing a cat face mask was about to say something, he was interrupted sharply by the bald-headed 5 elders. Humph. The CPO chief who wore a cat face mask gritted his teeth and snorted coldly, and the remaining 5 CPO chiefs did not speak. They felt very excited when they spoke at Marine's sight. And at this time, Marine's Marshal, Sakazuki glanced at the 6 CPO chiefs indifferently, and said, Straw Hat Luffy has grown very fast, but I always have a feeling that the ancestor of the sea, Lule, would kill him like killing a dog. Even if he can enter the Nika form, he may be killed simply and neatly. No, Sakazuki, words can't say that. Others may not have a chance to win, but the Straw Hat Luffy may really make the ancestors of the sea suffer a defeat. After drinking a cup of tea, the bearded 5 elders said meaningfully, the sun god Nika is not as simple as he imagined. Even Lord Yimu is afraid, and Joy Boy may have awakened, it just hasn't shown up yet. It's all about 100 years of blank history, and all in all Monkey D. Luffy is a guy who can do wonders. Quiet. After this sentence, the meeting room fell into a moment of silence. It has something to do with the blank 100-year history, which means that things may be really troublesome. But if the Straw Hat League can really cause trouble for the ancestors of the sea, that would be beneficial to them in the world government. When the Snipe and Muscles compete, the fishermen will benefit. Maybe they can be the fisherman who hides behind, and come here to kill 3 birds with 1 stone, and the winner will take all. Therefore, under the circumstance that the Mustache 5 elders said so clearly, the people present were not fools or idiots. Of course, they knew what the 5 elders wanted to do. They all showed thoughtful expressions. Without saying anything, they nodded silently. By the way, there are some countries that secretly support the Straw Hat League, should we warn you? Suddenly, the Dark Horse seemed to have thought of something, and said in a meaningful way, these countries have joined the world government on the surface, but secretly they have secretly communicated with the Straw Hat League, which is really a wishful thinking. Do you think these countries are only secretly playing with the Straw Hats? After hearing this, a CPO chief who didn't intend to speak at first couldn't help but retorted, there are some countries that are very shrewd, how about betting on the 3 parties? Not only did they support the Straw Hat League, but also secretly gave Wano-kuni a lot of supplies were sent. The Dark Horse's expression suddenly froze. After the naval headquarters was destroyed, he was too late to deal with some news and information, and now he was slapped in the face in public. Yeah, the next moment, the Dark Horse smiled shyly, and said in a low voice, it doesn't matter, anyway, it's just a piece of shit, whoever has the last laugh will follow whoever, it doesn't matter. At this time, the 5 elders with the best status took a deep breath and said, the situation in the sea is complicated and changeable, the major forces will sing and I will appear, but our world government rules the sea. More than 100 years. So, no matter what, our world government will have the last laugh. After saying this, the 5 elders got up and left the conference room in no particular order. The 6 CPO chiefs snorted coldly, and left the conference room impatiently without looking at the marine executives. For the time being, Sakazuki glanced disdainfully at the chief of the 6 CPOs who went out, took a deep breath, and said solemnly, with the 5 elders taking the lead, we don't have to worry, just obey the order. Green Bull, Fujitora, Kizaru, and Dark Horse all nodded. Alas, only Staff Officer he let out a faint sigh, with a hint of disappointment in his eyes, and then got up and left the office. Garp, after all, your grandson is still alive and well. Even if I am not killed by Lule, the ancestor of the sea, I will be killed by the 5 elders of the world government. I really can't do anything. Maybe you, a grandfather. He will also witness the scene of his grandson being killed. And Sakazuki looked at the departing staff, and didn't say anything. There are many things that must be done. This Straw Hat Luffy should have been killed long ago. Now that he has grown into 4 emperors, he raised his arms and formed the Straw Hat Alliance. It would be even more dead, even if Garp was still alive, he couldn't keep it. The turmoil caused by the Straw Hat Major League continues. Almost every day, I can hear that some forces have joined it. At the beginning, there may be some elites, and then some messy Gaia key snake gods have joined, and the number has swelled to almost 300,000. And when the miscellaneous people gathered together, all kinds of problems appeared. To this end, it almost caused infighting in the Straw Hat Major League. Fortunately, at a critical moment, the vice captains of Red Hair Pirates, Beckman, Hawkeye Mahawk, Crocodile, Pluton Rayleigh, etc. stood out and mercilessly killed thousands of people who were involved in the Straw Hat Major League. Live the situation. Then, Straw Hat Luffy became the leader of the Straw Hat Major League under the recommendation of everyone. The first order issued was to reduce the number of people in the Straw Hat Alliance, and finally reduce the number of people around 300,000 to 10,000. So far, the Straw Hat Major League is officially formed, and began to show his sharp fangs to the whole sea. Wano Kuni, in the face of the Straw Hat League, which has caused turmoil in the sea. It has not been affected in the slightest, and many countries have secretly sent countless supplies, which has made Wano Kuni's development reach a small peak. Flower Capital. Inside the palace in the central area, Lule was counting the loot that the red-haired Shanks and others had collected from naval headquarters. He didn't even look at the gold and silver treasures, only 8 devil fruits were left. As for the attributes, Lule didn't bother to look at it. He didn't eat it anyway, so it was absorbed by the system. The Straw Hat Major League, does this mean that I want to kill you all? Soon, after the inventory was completed, Lule picked up an intelligence document in his hand, glanced at it quickly, and threw it on the table, muttering to himself, Straw Hat Luffy, I didn't come to you, but if you take the initiative to do things, then I'm sorry. This time, I'll let you know what it's really like to do whatever you want. Boom. But, just then, there was a knock on the door. Come in. Lule felt it for a moment, and gave a plain order. Lord Lule. Kaido of the Beasts opened the door, walked in carelessly, and asked, the Straw Hat League has been established, when will we assemble? Don't assemble. The corner of Luo's mouth was slightly raised, and he said calmly, let the bullet fly for a while, this time I want to let the whole sea know what the real ancestor of the sea is. Kaido of the Beast's eyes lit up, and he understood in seconds. By the way, Lord Lule. The next moment, Kaido of the Beast showed a rare expression of embarrassment, opened his mouth, wanted to say something, but couldn't. If you have something to say, if you have a fart, let it go. Lule helplessly shook his head and scolded. Lord Lule, from now on, whether I can discuss with you, I will call you Lord, and you will call me Dad. Boom. It's not over yet. A cracking sound resounded. Kaido of the Beast's body fell outside the flower capital in a parabola, with a deafening roar. Outside the flower capital, inside a huge pothole, Kaido of the Beasts was lying here helplessly, looking up at the blue sky. He just wanted to try a little, but was slapped by Lord Lule. Failed. After all, his own daughter Yamato is not worthy of Lord Lule. Do not. Lord Lule doesn't like being big. In fact, for his daughter's series of backstabbing and filial piety, it is false that he is not angry, but, tiger poison does not eat children, he is not only the 4 emperors who rule the sea, but also a father. So, at the beginning, no matter what Yamato did, he chose to forgive if he could, even if he secretly allied with Luffy, he didn't take it to heart. His plan is to completely defeat the Straw Hat Luffy, which should make his daughter, Yamato, wake up. But, the plan can't keep up with the changes. The end result is that he is defeated by the crazy Straw Hat Luffy. Now Lord Lule is on Wano Kuni, and he swept the Kazuki clan with a destructive force, killing the Elephant Master, the red-haired Shanks, Kazuki Sukiyaki, Momosuke, and accidentally awakening his own daughter. So that after his resurrection, in addition to being ashamed and regretful, Yamato has been kneeling in front of his door for 10 days and 10 nights, with a mace on his back, quite a kind of guilt. To this, Kaido of the Beasts was initially unimpressed. But, with the passage of time, his heart, the old father who reigned over the sea, was still a little soft. In order to completely reassure Yamato, he planned to find a good home for Yamato. After thinking about it, he finally decided to hit Lule, the ancestor of the sea. As for age, except for the more than 40 years when Lord Lule died, the real age, in fact, is only about 19 years old, so it is not a problem at all. Therefore, his heart is like a clear mirror. Rather than being cheap to others, it is better to choose a man like Mr. Lule who is destined to become the king of the world. Well planned. The results were somewhat unsatisfactory. It's okay, children and grandchildren have their own children and grandchildren. I am a person who has died once, and I still struggle so much about what to do. After a few minutes, Kaido's eyes changed for a while, but in the end it turned into a violent look. Now that the Straw Hat Luffy has become the leader of the Straw Hat Alliance, and the world government and marine are hiding behind them, it is foreseeable that a war that will decide the future direction of the sea is about to break out. This time, no matter what, he will burst into a frenzy and try to participate in it as much as possible. He can no longer be too weak like the Battle of the Valley of the Gods more than 40 years ago, and can only be a spectator. The other side, Lule hardly paid much attention to what Kaido of the Beast said. What else are you talking about? You call me an adult, and I call you dad, isn't this a joke? Simply put, Yamato, is it worthy? At least, right now he really has no interest in Yamato. The only thing he can't figure out is that Kaido of the Beasts has forgiven his daughter Yamato again. It can only be said that even the strongest creatures who are moody and advocating violence have their own soft and weak places in their hearts. When the redhead and others come back, I can also make the last step of planning. Not long after, Lule restrained his thoughts, and a playful smile appeared on the corner of his mouth. He is very flawed and must be repaid. Those who besieged him more than 40 years ago thought that if they died, they could kill 100. No, even if you die, Lao Tzu will dig up your graves, and impure world reincarnation will resurrect you. Let you know that even after more than 40 years, Lao Tzu is still rampant and does whatever he wants. I don't want that much anymore. It's still a template to unlock the integration of peak Motherlanders. As long as one's strength is strong enough, any Straw Hat League or world government will only be crushed. Thinking of this, Lule took out the box placed under the table and said silently, "System, how many fusions can be unlocked by absorbing the energy of these 8 devil fruits?" Ding. Host, you can unlock 8% fusion. Okay, exchange it. After hearing this, Lule nodded without hesitation. Ding. Congrats host, 8% of the experience has been redeemed. Ding. I hope the host will continue to work hard, follow his heart, not be bound, and do whatever he wants. Perfect. Listening to the prompts coming out of my head. Lule clenched his fist and couldn't help showing a smile. With each unlocked fusion, the closer it is to extract the next template. The first time was the template of first Hokage Senju Hashirama in the peak period, and the second time was the template of the peak motherland. As for what template he would draw for the third time, his expectations were virtually full. The next moment, without any sign, the familiar and terrifying power poured into Lule's body, and he began to transform Lule's body with ease. Finally, after an hour, Lule stretched his waist in delight, just as he expected, and all aspects of his attributes seemed to have undergone a huge transformation. How much has it been enhanced? Lule's eyes moved, and he casually ordered, "System, I want to take a look at my latest attribute panel." Ding. Host's property panel is being generated. Ding. The property panel is generated. Host, Lule. Age, 19 years old. Chakra attributes: fire, wind, thunder, earth, water, yin, yang. Good money abilities. First Hokage Senju Hashirama's template peak state unlock fusion 100% marine 6 styles top observation haki top armament haki top conquerors haki top awakening exclusive ability overlord kilt motherland template peak state unlock fusion 86%. Constitution 232,630 10 points for ordinary people. Strength 286000, one punch is about 616,690 tons. Speed 4,250, 4140 approximately 4,200 meters s. Heat rays 3079500 approximately 3,101,000 degrees Celsius. The number of times to extract the template, 0. Sure enough, the more you unlock the fusion, the more powerful the attribute doubling, which is completely unreasonable. Taking a brief glance at his attribute panel, Lule's eyes flashed with surprise, and he couldn't help sighing, "People from the motherland are so perverted, I don't know how strong the real Superman is." Actually, he himself does not know how strong the ability and strength of the peak motherland people are. But, judging from what has been unlocked now, there are still some perverts. The physique, spirit, strength, speed, and thermal vision have all been greatly improved, which has virtually transformed various abilities, such as marine. Both 6 styles and armament haki reached the top. More importantly, As the body transforms, the already majestic sage body Chatanla. It seems to have grown a lot again. I am afraid that it is not comparable to the chakra of 10 tails. It feels like it's still a little short of breaking through to the 6 paths level. After roughly sensing his physical state, Luolei's cheek showed a thoughtful expression. In fact, after merging the template of the peak first Hokage Senju Hashirama, he has been trying to find a way to break through to the 6 paths level. After all, under 6 paths and above 6 paths are completely two concepts. At his peak, first Hokage Senju Hashirama was very strong and could be called the first person under 6 paths. But, less than 6 paths. In the world of Hokage, it is a second-class existence after all. It should be soon. I feel that the Chatanla in my body is about to reach an ultimate. Not long after, Luolei shook his head, too lazy to think so much. To break through to the 6 paths level, the most obvious sign is the Master Truth-Seeking Ball. In the original work, the ways of Master Truth-Seeking Ball can be roughly divided into 3 types. The first is to use the 7 attributes of chakra to make, the second is to use Tenseigan, Rinnegan to make, and the third is to fully learn the 6 paths magic. In fact, there is another. Just like 10 tails, which has a huge and almost endless chakra, it will change the quantity and cause the qualitative change, and it will be directly in one step. The power of Master 6 Paths will condense the truth-seeking ball and reach the 6 paths level. 10 tails Jinsha Riki is the most direct example. The first method Luolei has tried many times more than 40 years ago. It seems that there is something missing in the pirate world, and they all failed. He doesn't have Tenseigan and Rinnegan, and the second method can't work. As for the third method, it's almost impossible to learn 6 paths magic, unless you can draw the template of Sage of 6 Paths. Therefore, Luolei decided to follow the 10 tails path after drawing the ancestor's template. It seems to be working pretty well now. For now, after a few minutes, Luolei took a sip of hot tea from the teacup, and subconsciously used his super perception to sense the sea area where Wano-kuni was. Nowadays, observation haki is cooperating with super perception. Luolei himself does not know how far he can perceive, so every time he perceives, he will take Wano-kuni as the center and spread continuously in all directions. Sudden, just when Luolei put down the teacup. As if sensing something, a playful look appeared on his cheeks. If there is no misperception, it seems that some uninvited guests are watching Wano-kuni in the waters near Wano-kuni. It just happened to become stronger. Let's go and play. Swish. With a cracking sound, Luolei's body disappeared into the room. At the same time, the sea near Wano-kuni, some merchant ships are moving slowly on the sea. If someone with the eye of God, looking carefully from top to bottom, will find that these merchant ships appear to be circling some commercial islands near Wano-kuni. That's right, these pirate ships disguised as merchant ships came to spy on Wano-kuni, including Marine, CPO, Straw Hat League, Revolutionary Army, etc. Sometimes when we encounter it, everyone is tacit, and they don't dare to go to war, lest they attract the Beast's pirates and the BIGMOM pirates, then they are all over. At this time, on a sea area to the west of Wano-kuni, a merchant ship was sailing slowly, and several revolutionary troops dressed as merchants on the deck were holding binoculars and looking at Wano-kuni solemnly. Wano-kuni still has no movement. A businessman dressed as a revolutionary army shook his head and ordered in a deep voice, "Let's go. We should leave." Yes. Boom. An explosion sounded. BJDG. The other revolutionary army has not finished speaking. The body was smashed alive by something, turned into a cloud of blood, and the splashed deck was all over the place. The revolutionary army holding the binoculars was stunned, wiped the blood on his cheeks, and was just about to say something, but found that the revolutionary army on the deck hadn't reacted, and his body was all turned into blood mist. Finally, a figure was suspended in midair like a ghost. The ancestors of the sea. Seeing this figure, the revolutionary soldier holding the binoculars widened his eyes, with an unbelievable look on his cheeks, as if he did not expect that he was only instructed to monitor Wano-kuni, and that Luolei, the ancestor of the sea, would be attracted. Laugh. The next moment, what else did the revolutionary soldier with the binoculars want to say? A hot gaze swept across his body, and the pirate ship under his feet was cut in half from the middle. Perhaps the temperature was too high, and the body of the Revolutionary Army holding the binoculars turned to ashes, and the pirate ship under his feet was cut in half, and a raging fire was also ignited. Finally, this camouflaged merchant ship disappeared into the endless sea in less than a minute. First, laugh. After getting a pirate ship with no effort, Lule didn't pay attention to which force it was, and when his mind moved, his body disappeared in midair. Therefore, in the next half hour, those ships disguised as merchant ships in the waters near Wano-kuni suffered. A lot of people on the boat haven't reacted yet. They were either cut alive by a red-hot sight, or photographed to the bottom of the sea by a wooden golem, or smashed alive by Lule's body, almost all of them. The army was wiped out. At this time, in a sea farther from Wano-kuni, a marine's top warship is hovering motionless on the sea. Gion Vice Admiral, something bad happened. An urgent voice sounded, and a Colonel Marine hurried out of the cabin and said in an unbelievable tone, "The Marines in the waters near Wano-kuni disguised as businessmen have all lost contact." What? Momoshiki, who was sitting on the deck and basking in the sun, suddenly opened his eyes and said in surprise, "Are you saying that everything is lost?" Yes, the Colonel Marine nodded and said, "It took less than half an hour before and after, and all of them lost contact. Let's go back for a while. Wano-kuni must have done something." Momoshiki hesitated for a while before ordering, "Send some more people to investigate what's going on, whether the Beast's pirates and the Bigmom pirates have taken action." Nowadays, Wano-kuni and the Straw Hat Major League. It is the focus of Marine and world government. This time Momoshiki was tasked with keeping an eye on Wano-kuni's movements. The voice did not fall. A playful voice sounded. Lule's body appeared above the Marine's top warship. After hearing this, Momoshiki looked up at the sky subconsciously, and when he saw the person coming, his expression suddenly solidified, his face turned pale with fright, and the whole person seemed to be petrified, standing there dumbfounded. As for the Marine soldiers on the deck, the reaction was similar. They almost smashed their eyes, and even slumped on the deck. How is this possible? Ancestors of the sea, Lule. He actually appeared here. For a time, there was a dull and dignified atmosphere on the deck. Ha ha. In midair, the corners of Lule's mouth twitched slightly, and he said slowly, "I just wanted to warm up a little, but I didn't expect to encounter a big fish from Marine." Lule planned to go back after dealing with the uninvited guests in the waters near Wano-kuni. But it happened to sense the breath of these Marines. Just stopped by. Just happened to spot Vice Admiral and Backup Admiral Momoshiki of Naval Headquarters. Boom. After this sentence, the Marine soldiers on the deck came back to their senses at once, with cold sweat on their foreheads, and extremely frightened expressions in their eyes. Ancestors of the sea, Lule. Why did he come? What should I do? What should I do now? It's screwed, we're screwed. Accompanied by a series of frightened voices, the Marine soldiers on the deck didn't even have the heart to resist, and there was only one thought in their heart's ashes, and that was death. It turned out to be his hand. Momoshiki barely suppressed the fear in his heart, and revealed a wry smile that suddenly dawned on him. She has been hiding far away, and she doesn't even dare to approach the sea area near Wano-kuni, but she never thought that it would be perceived by the ancestors of the sea. Is she going to kill her in the sky? You go, I'll hold him back. But, Momoshiki is also Marine's substitute admiral. After the initial tremor, he quickly regained his senses and gave a loud command. Laugh. This is the sound of Kimpira being pulled out by Momoshiki. Perhaps knowing that there is a huge gap in strength, Momoshiki was planning to strike first, and rushed towards Lule in a flash. Clang. This is the sound of Jinpira slashing on Lule wrapped around armament hockey. Except for a majestic energy fluctuation, it has no substantive effect at all, and it does not break Lule's defense at all. Momoshiki clenched her silver teeth tightly, and wanted to wave the Jinpira in her hand again. Snapped. A crisp voice sounded. A slap print appeared on Momoshiki's face, who was just about to do it again. Perhaps the force was too great, and Momoshiki's body slammed on the deck, making a crisp crashing sound. It's so fast, I can't react at all. Momoshiki, who slammed on the deck, covered her swollen cheeks. In her heart, there was nothing but despair. Too strong. The ancestors of the sea are really too strong. Even if it is stronger than her, it seems that there is no way to fight back. No, I can't give up. Pity. When Momoshiki wanted to stand up, Luolei's eyes in midair began to flash with red light. Laugh. Next second, a fleeing marine was bombarded alive by the red heat vision. Of course, Luolei controlled the temperature and didn't turn on the fire, otherwise the temperature of more than 3 million degrees Celsius would explode, and this sea area would not be able to withstand it. And this is just the beginning. What? A series of desperate screams sounded. The remaining marine soldiers who wanted to escape were almost unable to fight back, and they were bombarded by heat sites one by one. All of a sudden there was blood rushing. The air was filled with the pungent smell of blood. About 10 seconds later, all the marines at the scene except Momoshiki were wiped out. All dead. Demon, this is a demon. Why? Why is this? Momoshiki slumped on the deck in despair, smelling the blood in the air, and his mind fell into a blank. However, unbeknownst to Momoshiki, this was just the beginning. Swish. After a few seconds, before Momoshiki could react, Luolei was carried into the cabin. After 3 hours, Momoshiki, you don't want to spread the news today, do you? After saying this, Luolei happily walked out of Momoshiki's room. Why? Momoshiki's body in the room trembled a few times, and he couldn't help thinking of some of the pictures just now, and his eyes became tearful again. Ancestors of the sea, just an unscrupulous super fool. Ancestors of the sea, just an unscrupulous super jerk. Actually, even Momoshiki himself thought he was doomed. But I didn't expect that Luolei, the ancestor of the sea, who played cards unreasonably, actually took a fancy to her body. Well now, this time to monitor Wano-kuni's mission, she lost her wife and lost her army, and even God in it. If she had known this was the case, even if the final boss of the world government gave an order, Momoshiki will not accept this task. Thinking of this, Momoshiki clenched his silver teeth and picked up the jinpira that was placed beside him, and wanted to cut himself off. A scholar can be killed but not shamed. The insult she received today, only death can prove her innocence. Only, after picking up Kimpira, Momoshiki's pretty face has a hesitant expression. In the end, Momoshiki left Jinpira beside her, and the 2 lines of tears flowed silently again. She couldn't commit suicide, she wanted revenge, she wanted to find that devilish man, revenge. The other side, ding, congrats to host, congratulations to host, you can do whatever you want without being restrained, and the system will reward you with 2% of the experience. Ding, I hope the host will continue to work hard, follow his heart, not be bound, and do whatever he wants. Luolei, who had already reached the deck, was about to leave when a series of system prompts suddenly sounded in his mind. Immediately after, a majestic energy poured into his body again and began to transform his body. I came out and became stronger again. Half an hour later, Luolei felt his body getting stronger again, and involuntarily showed a cold smile. He is getting stronger almost all the time. What are Wong Luffy and I am fighting him for? This time, if Wong Luffy and Yimu are not at one time, he will not be the ancestor of the sea. Swish, a cracking sound rang out. Luolei's body left the deck and disappeared. At the same time, what happened in the waters around Wano-kuni? I can't hide it at all. When the various forces found that their subordinates in the waters around Wano-kuni had lost contact, the first reaction was that it was bad. Wano-kuni started to do it, and the second reaction was to send people again to see what was going on. But, when the news of the ancestors of the sea, Luolei's own hands came out. Whether it was the world government, Marine, CP0, Straw Hat Alliance, Revolutionary Army, etc., all of them became miserable in an instant, and they dared not send people to the waters near Wano-kuni. They all know that this is the ancestor of the sea, Luolei, who dares to fight again. The consequences may be very serious. In an instant, even the Straw Hat Alliance, which is still consolidating its power, dares not send people to the waters around Wano-kuni anymore. Not to mention the world government, Marine, and CP0. They are thinking of catching cicadas and orioles behind, so they withdrew a large number of espionage personnel immediately, and even the Straw Hat Alliance did not monitor them. For a time, the invisible power of Luolei, the ancestor of the sea, made the whole sea shudder and tremble. New World, Marine G2 Headquarters, inside the top-level General Staff Office. Staff Officer, he looked at a vacation note in his hand and fell into deep thought. Marine didn't send anyone to monitor Wano-kuni after the ancestor of the sea, Lule showed his sword, but at this moment, Naval Headquarters Vice Admiral and Substitute Admiral actually applied for leave. This made the Crane staff bewildered. She knows Momoshiki very well, there is no special situation, she will never drop the chain at a critical moment. Unless something happens on this mission. It was deliberately concealed by Momoshiki. Quote. The next moment, as if thinking of something, Staff Officer Crane took out a document with information, which recorded the destruction of the Marine Corps on the Marine top-level warship that Momoshiki was on. At first, she thought Momoshiki was lucky and escaped. Now it looks like something must have happened. Could it be? Boom, accompanied by the sound of clapping the table. There was a look of anger and suffocation on the cheek of Staff Officer Crane. She realized it, and suddenly wanted to understand. This unscrupulous ancestor of the sea, Lule will definitely take Momoshiki, otherwise. Marine ate a dumb loss in the hands of the ancestors of the sea again, and a good cabbage was arched by a pig. Not long after, the sound of smashing things came from the office of the Crane staff. The other side, Kamabaka Kingdom, inside a conference room of the Revolutionary Army. Monkey D. Dragon, Emporio Ivankov, Lightning, Bello Beatty and other cadres of the Revolutionary Army gathered together. Okay, now that we're all here, let's announce one thing. Monkey D. Dragon seemed to be in a good mood, and gestured to Koala. Emperor Sabo isn't dead yet. Koala looked at the latest information in his hand, and said excitedly, faced with Im's airborne attack, he was seriously injured, and now the injury has been recovered, and he is secretly rushing back to the kingdom of Kamabaka. What? Great. Really great. Ha ha ha, God really bless our Revolutionary Army. After hearing this, numerous cadres of the Revolutionary Army in the conference room were stunned for a moment, and then involuntarily exclaimed one after another. To know, after learning that I am destroying a country in order to stand out. They broke a cold sweat for Sabo, and now Sabo is not dead, it is really lucky for the Revolutionary Army. Correct. After everyone calmed down a little, Monkey D. Dragon narrowed his eyes and said solemnly, it is not safe to talk to phone bugs now. When everyone is talking, it is best to use passwords. Understood. Upon hearing this, many cadres of the Revolutionary Army nodded solemnly. This time Sabo was accurately located by the world government. It should be that the phone bug exposed the specific location, and then the incident of I am destroying a country from the air happened. Lord Dragon, the Straw Hat Alliance has been established, should our Revolutionary Army respond? Koala seemed to have thought of something and asked curiously. Swish, swish, swish. The voice did not fall. Many cadres of the Revolutionary Army looked at the dragon with curiosity. These days, the Revolutionary Army is very concerned about the Straw Hat League, and the most important thing is the Straw Hat Luffy, the leader of the Straw Hat League. Ha ha ha, our Revolutionary Army doesn't have to respond, but will participate. Facing everyone's gaze, Monkey D. Dragon laughed loudly and said without hesitation, fighting tiger brothers, father and son soldiers, even Luffy is not afraid, what am I afraid of? I hope everyone will support it and subscribe more.